Walking in Another World, Chapter 231, Medicinal Herb Picking and the Forest. After leaving Marty, we advance in the opposite direction of the mountain he came from, and walk near the lake. The mountain town Lyctus and the road to the Republic of Eldo are on the way, but we pass by them and keep moving. Well, Sarah, Ruruka, and Chris stop for a bit in front of the road that connects to the mountain path, and stare into the distance. I'm sure they're thinking about their home country. Sarah hasn't been there in 10 years, and Ruruka and Chris in 3. If we don't find Eris here, should we stop by the Republic of Eldo? That would be hard, because we need to return to Majolica if we get laurel tree fruit. Master, I can see it. We keep walking by the lake, until eventually we see the town of folk in the distance. But our business today is with the forest before it. We'd have to stop by anyway if we didn't have the necessary equipment to camp, but that's not an issue for our party, so we keep going towards the forest. If we went to folk, it would take us 5 days to go and return. The forest, or rather, the overgrown trees, stretch all the way towards the mountainside, so there's probably a lot of the food Hikari was talking about. Apparently there aren't a lot of monsters, but every year there are hunters that come here to hunt animals and get injured, so we still need to be careful. Hikari intends to hunt them if they do appear, but we don't know what kind of monsters lurk here, so I'd rather she didn't push it. First we need to find where the medicinal herbs are growing, and where to set up camp. I'm thinking about using magic to build a cabin again. If we find a nice space for it. We probably won't need it, because we're only staying here for 2 nights, but it's a chance to increase my proficiency. Sora, there's a nice space here. Ruruka found a nice space relatively close to the forest, but we go a little deeper. It would be ideal if we could stay near the mountain, and near where the medicinal herbs grow. Aren't we picky? Ruruka says, but I think that will make it easier for us. I don't have a problem walking, but it's not the same for them. We have item bags, but not for everyone. Not that any of us is going to walk around the forest alone anyway, because that's dangerous. Exploring the forest doesn't end up going as well as we planned, so we split into 2 groups. I'm going to look for medicinal herbs and a camping site with Ruruka and Mia, and Hikari, Sarah, and Chris are going to explore the side closer to the mountain while looking for food like mushrooms. Incidentally, Chris is with Hikari and Sarah so she can use her spirit magic just in case we can't find each other. This is a good spot, isn't it? Says Ruruka while looking around. There's an empty space close to the spot where medicinal herbs grow. There are some weeds too, but they're sparse. Then I'll build the cabin here. And you too. Are you going to look for medicinal herbs or see if there's anything edible around here? I see. I think I'll go look for medicinal herbs. Then I'm going to. The others will probably gather the food, says Mia, and Ruruka agrees. So they go pick medicinal herbs. I think it's because Ruruka feels like leaving Mia alone is dangerous, even if I'm nearby. After all, Ruruka doesn't really like picking medicinal herbs. Anyway, I lay down some boards, and build the cabin on top. I think this one is actually more like a small house. Maybe I'll even try to make bedrooms and a bathing area. Once I get going, I start wanting to make more intricate stuff. But I contain myself and keep it simple. I want to go pick medicinal herbs too. I don't know if it's because I'm getting used to building these houses, or because I'm getting used to picturing their layout, but it doesn't take too long. Depending on the manpower behind it, it would probably take dozens of days to build something like this by hand. Are you done already? Asks Mia, and Ruruka also looks perplexed. But what can I say? It's not like there's furniture to worry about either. Actually, should I buy stuff like beds and keep them in the item box? When I ask them, they respond with awkward smiles. I thought it was a pretty good idea. What are you two going to do? It's still early, so I'm thinking about picking medicinal herbs too. We're going to rest a bit. And we can cook something if you leave the ingredients, says Ruruka, and Mia's face tenses up a little. She's been learning, but she still isn't confident, and thinks she's not as good as other people. But Mia, you've got a good foundation and you don't do anything weird, so you'll be fine. I look towards Ruruka, and she nods like she's telling me to leave it to her. Alright then. Time to pick medicinal herbs. They've been picking too, but there's plenty left for me. There are a lot of magic energy and vitality herbs, and since we're pretty deep in the forest, I assume not a lot of people come here. Eventually my lower back starts to hurt, so I start stretching, and pick up a reaction coming down from the mountain. I look up, and see the sun is already setting and it's getting dark. Hikari and the others are coming here directly, so it doesn't look like I have to go to them. Master, big catch. Is that a deer she's taking out of the item bag? And that one looks like a hog. It seems they're done draining the blood too, so I store them in the item box. Aren't we eating them today? Rurika and Mia and cooking for us tonight. I take them to the house, and place a barrier before we go in. That covers all bases, just in case presence detection fails to pick up something. Well then, let's enjoy their cooking. Walking in Another World, Chapter 232, Maxed Out. Name, Sora Fujimiya. Job, Sorcerer. Race, Otherworlder. No level. HP, 1000 1000ths. MP, 1000 1000ths, plus 100. SP, 1000 1000ths. Strength. 990, plus 0. Stamina. 990, plus 0. Agility. 990, plus 0. Magic Power. 990, plus 100. Dexterity. 990, plus 0. Luck. 990, plus 0. Skill, Walking LV99. Effect, user won't get tired no matter how much they walk. Get 1 experience point with each step. Experience points, skill points, 50. Skills learned. Appraisal LV max. People Appraisal LV max. Appraisal Obstruction LV7. Parallel Thinking LV max. Sword Master LV max. Physical Strengthening LV max. Presence Detection LV max. Magic Energy Detection LV8. Natural Recovery Boost LV max. Status Ailment Resistance LV8. Pain Reduction LV5. Presence Concealment LV9. Night Vision LV max. Throw, Shooting LV8. Intimidate LV6. Magic Energy Control LV max. Basic Daily Life Magic LV max. Fire Magic LV9. Water Magic LV8. Wind Magic LV8. Earth Magic LV9. Light Magic LV6. Dark Magic LV6. Spatial Magic LV max. Holy Magic LV6. Alchemy LV max. Effect Attachment LV9. Creation LV9. Transfer LV6. Cooking LV max. New Gravity Magic LV1. Space-Time Magic LV1. I spent 1 point on Gravity Magic and 3 on Space-Time Magic. Gravity Magic lets me control a target's gravity, but I have to touch it. Right now, the uses I can think for it are to make my sword heavier when I slash with it, and attach it to bullets as an effect. Apparently Time-Space Magic serves to control the flow of time within a specific space. For example, I can make things in a radius centered around me move slower. But at such a low level, its effect lasts so little that it's basically unusable. And that's not even the biggest problem. The real problem is the MP it uses. It needs a whopping 1000 MP. I currently have a total of 1200 because of my job, but that means I can't use it more than once. And I would need 4 skill points to level it up that way. I've tried using it, and from the looks of things, I'd need to use it about 50 times to level it up through proficiency. Even with natural recovery boost, it would probably take me about an hour to use it a second time. I could try to use it frequently and level it up that way, but then I wouldn't be able to use magic, or any skill that uses MP in general. What's wrong, Sora? Chris' voice brings me back, and I notice everyone's looking at me with worried expressions. I guess they just finished their bath. Master, your face is scary, says Hikari while poking my cheek. I pat her head, and tell everyone about the new skills I learned. Well, I don't think there's much you can do about it. I have never even heard of such magic, says Chris with a sparkle in her eyes. She really likes magic. Not as much as you though. I don't think words are enough to explain this, so I take a bath, and after we eat and I recovered enough MP, I give them a demonstration. I have Rurika and Hikari enter the range of space-time magic, and signal for them to move. Then I activate the magic, and their movements become slower, but it only lasts about 5 seconds. How was it? I didn't really feel anything. Yes, it was normal. It sounds like nothing really changed from their point of view. Rurika, you were moving more slowly. Yes, for just a little, but you two were slower, say Sarah and Mia, and Rurika and Hikari tilt their heads. Maybe the people affected by this magic don't feel it. Chris calmly analyzes it and looks at me. I could tell that you are moving slower. It might be different as it levels up and the effect lasts longer. I guess I really do just need to level up. Maybe I can get through it by chugging mana potions, but their effect weakens if I drink them one after the other. And even the best mana potion I've ever made only restored about 200 MP. If I'm going to make a superior mana potion, there's a high potion that restores more HP, but not an equivalent mana potion. The same goes for stamina potions. Then, I guess I should create it? What about combining potions like I did to make the full potion? I don't have the MP to do that now, so I'll give it a try when I recover completely. I should try to pick more magic energy herbs starting tomorrow, so I can also start making more mana potions. Walking in Another World, Chapter 233, Extra Mana Potion. I have a bunch of magic energy herbs in front of me, so it's time to start making mana potions. Mia and Chris are close by, preparing lunch. The other three took packed lunches with them, so they're probably not coming back to eat. I could have prepared packed lunches for everyone, but Mia wants to cook, so I only made enough for the other three. I'm going to turn all these into mana potions, and then try combining them. First I try combining 2 mana potions, but I'm left with one that's kind of big and has a bit more liquid in it, but isn't that much more effective. Then I infuse magic energy, and this time use the skill while picturing what I want more clearly in my head. I'm picturing something thicker, more concentrated, and more effective. That leaves me with a smaller bottle. I cast appraisal on it, and it says its name is Extra Mana Potion. But I won't know how effective it is until I drink it. I should take a break, recover enough MP to cast space-time magic, and drink this after using it. It will be easier to check its effectiveness when I'm low on MP. Is it done? Asks Chris, because she's seeing a potion bottle she doesn't recognize. Mia is looking this way too. I guess I still need to check its effect. Do you two want to try it too? They can't see a numerical value like me, so they have to go by feeling alone, but they can feel the flow of magic energy now, so apparently they have a better grasp on the magic energy inside their bodies. They look at each other, and nod. I'll make 2 more then. After having lunch, they cast magic to spend as much magic energy as possible. I also use space-time magic, and then gravity magic to make small adjustments to the amount of MP I have left. Should we drink now? I figured we'd drink them one at a time, but I guess we're all doing it at the same time. We face each other and drink the potions. This would look weird from the outside, like a drinking party or a weird ritual. We gulp them down, and I see in my status screen that I recovered half my MP. Oh, I'm surprised by how much I recovered, but I also notice one miscalculation. Does this recover close to 500 MP, or does it recover half? After suddenly noticing this, I use magic energy detection on Chris and Mia. It tells me they recovered a lot. Mia in particular seems to have recovered everything. Can I conclude that it heals a fixed amount of 500? I make another extra mana potion, that I shorten to X mana potion, and drink it. Yes, no doubt about it. Incredible. It's completely different from any potion I ever drank. Chris sounds excited. That's pretty rare, but does Chris have a hard time managing her MP because of her spirit magic? This feels like it would help a lot of people. Mia is moved in her own way. Just don't drink too much. Well, if I want to mass produce them, I better start picking more magic energy herbs. And so, I ask them to pick anything that's not withered. These X mana potions I made were high quality, so I also want to check how they turn out if they're of slightly lower quality. But wouldn't this be hard to sell? Asks Chris, and I tell her I don't know. I don't know if current alchemists can concentrate and infuse magic energy like that. It's a little different from making full potions, so if I go talk to them about this, I might end up having to explain what magic energy even is. It's one thing if it's someone like Buzzin, but whoever I end up talking to might drag me into something annoying. Should I talk about this when we go back to Majolica? I'll make them just for us for now. I think that's a good idea. But I also think regular mana potions will suffice, unless I go crazy with my magic. Chris tends to have a good grasp on her MP. Apparently it's because a long time ago she ran out of MP and it undid her disguise. Then I'll make a few X mana potions just in case, and make regular ones. X mana potions are mostly going to be used to raise my proficiency. It kind of feels like a waste. Also, I shouldn't use these skills while their level is so low, unless I really need them more to gain proficiency. When I was attacked by Hikari, I found myself suddenly needing to learn a skill right then and there, and that could happen again. And since apparently I'm not going to level up anymore, I want to refrain from using skill points. And when I'm done traveling, I might want to learn useful skills for my daily life, like cooking. Let's keep picking until the others get back, I say, brimming with motivation, but the other two look at me with lukewarm expressions for some reason. Walking in Another World, Chapter 234, Discussion. Is Hikari already sleeping? She was looking drowsy after filling her stomach, so Mia took her to bed. It didn't take long for Mia to return, and she says Hikari is fast asleep. Running around the mountain that much has to be tiring, says Sarah with an awkward smile. Apparently she was running all over the whole time, looking for food. Ruruka says so too. Chris just looks puzzled. She was probably holding back yesterday because of you, Chris, says Sarah, and she explains what happened today. It does sound tough. I'm sure I'd run out of breath if I had to chase her around like that. But what did you want to talk about? Right, I got sidetracked. I was thinking about what we should do from now on. If we're going to be stopped like this and waste time, we need to look for alternatives. For example, if we can't get laurel tree fruit, we should probably get more cockatrice materials so I can make more of my petrification cures to extend Casey's life. That would buy us more time to get the laurel tree fruit so I can make a petrification cure with it. But Chris, Ruruka, and Sarah probably want to check the slavers on the island. Well, Marty also has slavers, so can we actually ask there? Although if they have a policy of confidentiality, we might need to travel not just to Altair, but to every town in the Dragon Kingdom. We should probably ask for more cockatrice materials. Yes, and I've already asked the slavers. Eris, elves stand out, so we should have an answer by the time we come back to Marty, say Chris and Ruruka. So everything's taken care of as far as the slaver business is concerned? It'd be better to check ourselves. But if that's not possible, I guess this is the next best thing, and Chris can tell when someone's lying. And I think we should also decide where to go next. Do you want to go back to the Republic of Eldo, or head to Elysia? I think we should stop by Eldo and tell everyone how we're doing, Ruruka says as she peeks over at Sarah, but she disagrees. If we go back to the village, that's going to make it harder to then head to the kingdom, and if we have to go to the magic state, I don't even know how long that will take. But we can't get cockatrice materials right away, right? Still, not to mention that we need to prepare if we're going to the kingdom. 4 sets of eyes then point at me. Yes, it's very risky for me to go near Elysia. And there might be people who know Hikari's face. We might need disguises on the same level as Chris, not just masks. Just for the sake of argument, if there was a place there that could hold elves prisoner, where would it be? The kingdom is big. Once you think of one place as suspicious, they all start to seem suspicious. Can't we ask Hikari? As Ruruka crosses her arms and groans, Mia interjects with a question. Hikari's memory is hazy, and I don't want to push her and awaken bad memories. Why, you're right. Sorry. No, I thought about it too. I see Mia shrinking back, so I tell her I had the same idea. We don't really have a lot of clues. The most obvious answer would be capital, but is it really that simple? What do you think, Chris? My bet would be on the capital. My spirits tell me of something awful centered on the capital. Or rather, they warned me. I think there is something there. And it was summoned in the castle? Yes, says Chris bluntly, as something terrible crosses my mind. No wonder she's looking away. I also notice that she is gripping her spirit amulet tightly. There's also Sarah's case. I don't have anything concrete to base this on, but I think that's what's supporting her emotionally. Then once we get back, we'll go to the Alchemist Guild to ask Buzzin and Will to get cockatrice materials. Then we'll wait and see for a few days, and if there really is nothing we can do here, we'll go to Elysia through the magic state. Still, what are we even going to say when we return to Majolico after leaving it so soon? Well, I guess we'll just have to tell them we couldn't find laurel tree fruit, and that we're going to Elysia next. But if we are going to the kingdom, it might be easier to go through the Holy Kingdom after the Magic State, says Chris, and I picture the map. Yes, to go from the Magic State to Elysia we would have to go through a mountain. We can go by wagon, but it might take a long time, depending on the weather. And it might be easier to plan our journey if we go through the Holy Kingdom. I also want to see the capital of the Magic State, but we can do that when we have more time. Walking in Another World, Chapter 235, Bandit Subjugation, Part 1. The next morning, we all pick medicinal herbs before we head back to Marty. We're going to the place we saw when we entered the forest. I think we picked a little too much around here already. As for why we're still picking herbs, it's not because we don't have enough magic energy herbs or anything like that. Doesn't Big Sister Sarah need to pick herbs too? Is what Hikari asked casually last night as we were having dinner. And she's right. It was the 3 childhood friends who accepted the quest to pick herbs. Rurika picked them the first day, and Chris the second. But Sarah hasn't picked anything because she's been with Hikari. Hikari didn't think too much of it, and was just asking something that popped into her mind. But Rurika and Chris agreed. Sarah wasn't too happy with it. Maybe being close to Rurika means she thinks she's not good at it either. As for Rurika herself, she watched Sarah with an awkward smile on her face, as Chris sighed. And that's why we're all going to pick medicinal herbs. Master, what's this? That's a vitality herb. It's not withered, and its condition looks good. And this? This is a medicinal herb, but its color is looking a little weird. I'm picking herbs with Hikari. Sarah is with Chris. But after hearing a simple explanation, she's doing a pretty good job picking herbs. She said she wasn't good with this kind of work, but I guess that was a long time ago. Apparently life in the Empire hardened her a lot. Ironically, Rurika looks really surprised to see Sarah working so smoothly, and when her eyes meet Sarah's, Sarah puffs out her chest with pride. Well, they're both messing with each other. I'm sure it's because they're close friends. But Sarah is showing more emotion and acting her age more than when she talks to me. It seems like a small difference, but it's noticeable. We have what we wanted, so should we start heading back? I have more than enough for the Alchemist Guild too. After hearing that, everyone stretches their bodies that were working in a position they're not used to, except for Hikari, who looks fine. Master, what about lunch? I guess it is getting to be that time. How about we eat near the lake? Can you bear with it until we get there? Yes, I can. And so, we start moving. Hikari holds my hand and pulls it on the way there. Probably because she's looking forward to lunch. And when we do get to a spot where we can see the lake well, I lay down a sheet, and we start eating. It's so peaceful. It makes me feel like lying down and taking a nap. But if I do that, we won't reach Marty before the sun sets. And there's a chance that we won't even be able to enter the town. That's a shame. Watching the city on the lake from here makes it feel like it's so close. I felt like if we can't get there by ship, I could probably create footing by continuously casting magic, but when I activate magic energy detection I can see something that looks like a barrier around the island. We really do need to go through the proper channels. So close, yet so far. After having lunch, we get back to the main road and reach Marty as planned. The gate is still completely empty except for the guard. They really don't get many visitors. I show my guild card, and the guard checks it, looks at me, checks it again, and then talks to me. Sora. Is that name right? Did something happen? Why is he checking it so many times? Why yes. Is there a problem? Don't worry. I just received an order from the feudal lord to tell you to go see him. When you got back, the feudal lord? I have 2 possibilities in mind. But still, he actually called me. Should I go there now? Well, it's kind of late. How about tomorrow? We don't really have plans. Then I'll have someone send a message. Where are you staying tonight? I tell him we're planning to stay in the same inn where we stayed before, but that's assuming they have rooms available. After we enter the town, Rurika, Chris, and Sarah go to the Adventurer Guild, and the rest of us go to the Alchemist Guild to ask Yan to relay a message to Buzzin, who can then relay it to Will. And when we get to the inn, they have rooms for us, so we stay here. I'm curious about what the feudal lord wants, but there's no point in thinking about it now. I'll just prepare myself mentally for whatever it might be. That said, we haven't really attracted any bad attention or anything, so I can't imagine he has anything to complain about. I check with Chris too, and she tells me I didn't do anything wrong when we talked. Not that I had much time anyway, because the meeting was over before I could really say anything. And as I relax in my room, the owner comes up and calls me. When I get downstairs I see the gatekeeper I met in the feudal lord's mansion, who tells me to go there tomorrow morning. They didn't say anything about me going alone, so after we have breakfast, I go to the mansion with Chris. We're taken to the same room as last time, and a few minutes later, The feudal lord arrives with hurried steps. "Will you accept a quest to go after bandits?" is what he says when he sees me, with no explanation or anything. Walking in Another World, Chapter 236, Bandit Subjugation, Part 2. The old butler quickly approaches the feudal lord, Sad, and speaks in his ear. Sad then clears his throat, and elaborates on what he said before. "I've heard that you want to go to Altair, but I can't just give you permission, no questions asked. If you accept my demands, I can make an exception." Meaning, take down bandits. Precisely. "However, I heard that you've been working as a group, but I want you to accept this alone," Sad says, before closing his mouth and crossing his arms. I look at the butler, and see him holding his head. "May I ask a question?" asks Chris, and while Sad doesn't look too happy, he nods. "Why does Sora have to accept this quest alone?" "It's very simple, to draw less attention. And in actuality, you'll be going with knights from my domain. But only a few, since they would be alerted by a large group." That explanation doesn't really clarify things all that much for me, but if those are his conditions, do I have no choice but to accept? Think of it as a consideration by our feudal lord. Adventurers generally only fight monsters, but in this case, you will have to fight people. It might be harsh for ladies who are not used to this sort of thing, the butler adds. I turn to the side, and Chris really does have a troubled look on her face. Hunting monsters and killing people are very different things. I do wonder how Rurika and the others would fare. As I think that, my hands shake, and I clench my fists. "It's fine. I mean, I've already." "Very well. When are we leaving?" "Tomorrow morning. I will have a wagon ready in front of the gate," he says before he leaves with fast steps. The butler gives us money to cover the costs of the trip, and gives us more details. "We're going to a place in the opposite direction of where we picked medicinal herbs, to a mountain on the way to the town of Croix. There are rumors that the bandits are living there, and they've caused quite a bit of damage. There have been many attempts to take them down, but the bandits hide too well, and they all ended in failure. If that's the case, it looks like this will probably end the same way, but I don't say anything." "We are glad to have you on board," says the butler as he lowers his head deeply. I do get the feeling that they are worried about having a group of bandits in their territory, and really want to do something about it. And so, I'm joining that group that's going after the bandits. I explain to everyone what happened, after we come back to the inn. It's not that complicated. If I want to go to Altair, I have to catch those bandits. And they don't have to be alive. The real questions are how many bandits are we dealing with, and how many knights are coming along. I only thought of that after we left the mansion. Well, it's not like I can refuse anyway, but it does leave me feeling a little worried. "Are you all right?" asks Rurika, sounding concerned. "I'll have knights with me, so I'll be fine." And apparently they're his best. The butler said it's a small but elite group of knights that are experts at fighting people. I can probably judge that myself by using people appraisal on them and checking their levels. That's fine then, but Chris also looks worried. It doesn't help that this came out of nowhere. Hikari on the other hand is just silently staring at me. "Anything on your mind?" "No, nothing." That night, we talk about what will happen while I'm out catching the bandits. They say they saw there was an urgent quest from folk in the Adventurer Guild, and they might accept it depending on what it's about. Dealing with the bandits will take at least 5 days, and it can take much more if we can't find them. Still, the time frame they set is 10 days. I asked what would happen if we don't find them at all, and he said he'll think about it. Let's hope there's no problem. Then should I leave item bags and food that will last for a long time? I guess. Various seasonings too. Rurika and Chris tell me what they need, and I hand it to them. Well then, I have to get up early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed. I go to bed right away after everything is ready. Usually I go to bed when the sun goes down. Keeping the light up costs magic stones, although I don't need fuel if I use light magic instead. After laying down, I cast space-time magic to increase its proficiency, and since I also recover MP while sleeping, I use parallel thinking to also cast space-time magic while I sleep. Now that I think about it, it's been a while since I've done anything alone. I stare at the ceiling. Fighting people. I should ask the knights for advice. Also, we're going by wagon, but with the walking skill maxed out, there's really no need to go out of my way to walk. But what about food? I have plenty in the item box, but if I'm going with other people, that would normally mean eating with them. When I really stop to think about it, This whole thing is full of holes. Why was he in such a hurry to put this quest together anyway? I remember Sad's nervous face, and eventually fall asleep. Walking in Another World, Chapter 237, Bandit Subjugation, Part 3. Master, I'm going to. So basically, I'm at the gate, ready to get on the wagon with the knights, but Hikari is now insisting that she wants to come along. The knights look perplexed, and I'm taken aback too, because it came out of nowhere. I'm sure the knights heard that I'm supposed to be the only one going after the bandits with them. Hikari, we talked about this yesterday, right? You're staying here. Number. I want to go too. I try again and again to talk her down, but all she does is grab onto my arm tightly. What's going on? Asks one of the knights, who can't bear to stay back and watch anymore. But what am I supposed to say? It's exactly what it looks like. Hikari, Sora can't leave unless you let go of him. Yes, you're coming with us, right? You're bothering Sora. Say Mia and Chris, but it doesn't look like it's working. Rurika and Sarah crouch to also try to convince her, but then they look at each other and say something to the knight. The knight looks at me, then at Hikari, and talks to me with an awkward smile while scratching his head. Young lady, do you understand that we're going to a dangerous place? He says after going down to one knee to look Hikari in the eye. Yes. Hikari nods. And you still want to come along? She says yes again. And when we think there's danger, will you do what we say? Yes, I promise. All right. Young man. Sora. We'll make sure we protect her, he says while tapping my shoulder. Kind of strongly, actually. It looks like he's on board with Hikari coming along. But what did Ruriko and Sarah say to him? Weren't they talking about convincing Hikari? I'm going to, Master. Her anxious expression has been replaced with a smile. I feel like I should be scolding her, but I guess this has been settled. Rurika just says we're leaving her with you then. And so, we get on the wagon, and start heading to our destination. There are 2 wagons, and 15 people, including me and Hikari. They're big for the amount of people they're carrying, but that's to make it look like they're carrying merchandise. The knights are wearing light equipment to make them look like adventurers, not their usual armor. Their weapons on the other hand stand out a little, because they match, but I guess that's because they want to at least choose the weapons they usually use. Are you really sure about this? I asked the middle-aged knight that said it was all right for Hikari to come along. His name is Richard, and he's acting as the leader of this group. Well, what can we do? I'd feel sorry if we had to pry her away. The other knights here that look about the same age as him nod. Are you really sure? But then the youngest knight here, Set, whispers something to me. Richard has a daughter, and apparently around that age when she really wanted to be pampered. He was swamped with work and couldn't be with her. I think about what to say, but can't find the right response. Is that why he's being so soft? And her movements feel different too. I'm sure he realized she can fight at least to some extent. I can't deny that. We've been traveling together for a while. By using appraisal, I can see Richard is the only one whose level is higher than Hikari's. Well, Richard and the others really will protect her if things get dangerous. And depending on the scale, make sure she gets away. That goes against the tough, straight-laced image I have of knights. The ones I met in the dungeon were like that too. So is this all right? Maybe the ones that I met in the dungeon are actually the ones that go against the norm. Master, isn't it about time to have lunch? She's right, we would normally have lunch right about now, but what are the plans for lunch here? Eating inside a shaking wagon is pretty rough, but I get the feeling that experienced knights would prioritize saving time. When I ask, they're surprised that it's lunchtime already, and stop the wagon. I jump down from the wagon and stretch. It's kind of rough, because I'm not used to this. The only wagons I've used lately have been nice ones that belong to nobles, and they didn't shake this much. What do you do for lunch when you're traveling, Sora? Master is a great cook. Hikari answers Set's question while puffing her chest out. Set looks interested, and so do Richard and the other knights. Yes, I do cook while we travel. Why do they look so surprised? Yes, I do remember hearing from Rurika and Chris about guys cooking. When we first accepted a quest, I thought that it was just about adventurers, but is it the same for knights? I see men cooking in stalls and dining halls, so it's not like men in this world can't cook at all. Well, we do have a lot of preserved food, but Hikari looks incredibly sad when she hears this. Sora, "Can we ask you to cook?" asks Richard, and that puts a bright smile back on Hikari's face. "I guess I really would rather cook than eat those preserved foods. All the preparations are done anyway, so that saves time. And Sad did give me some money for travel expenses. I make a simple cooking area, start cooking like usual, and serve everyone." Walking in Another World, Chapter 238, Bandit Subjugation, Part 4. "It's so tasty," says Richard, and Set and the other knights all nod, and of course, so does Hikari. "We're eating bread and cream stew for dinner." The knights are all soaking the bread in the stew because they saw Hikari do it. Afterwards, we chat with our stomachs full. "I see, so you're traveling while looking for someone." "I'm only helping. But an elf." "Sorry, but I haven't heard of her." "But I do know that slaves were protected and taken to Alta. Some stay there because of their circumstances, so there's a chance the one you're looking for is there." When I ask more about how that worked, he tells me the slaves' backgrounds and history were concealed to take them to Alta, so they don't know exactly who's there. He says he's had the opportunity to interact with a few of them due to his job, but they were always coming and going, so it's hard to get a good grasp on everyone. And if an elf was taken there when he was off duty, he wouldn't have heard about it. "Are you sure it's all right to tell me this?" "All the knights know about this, even if we don't talk about it very much." I think the good food has loosened his tongue, but is that really not a problem? "So that's why you want to go to Alta. But you really do need the permission of the feudal lord to go there," says Richard, and the knights sitting around the fire nod. "Still, slaves. You're traveling around with girls, but wouldn't it be better to go around with stronger men?" "I mean, I'm a guy too, so it's not like I don't get it," says Set, and the younger knights raise their voices too. "There's deeper circumstances behind it, and one of them is ready to be freed, and we just need to take care of some formalities. We've been in such a hurry that we forgot that Sarah is ready to be freed from being a combat slave." "Really? Then you should do that soon." Slaves draw attention, and I'm sure it's not pleasant for her either. "That's true." Richard is right. "It's not like Sarah is a slave because she likes it." "We need to talk about this as soon as we get back." "That was my bad for not taking care of it sooner." We keep talking, but when Hikari looks like she's dozing off, we decide to go to sleep. The knights are going to take turns keeping watch, and I'm going to sleep in the wagon with Hikari. I'm glad that I get to take it easy, but I'll use parallel thinking to stay alert anyway. And by using parallel thinking, I can also use space-time magic while I sleep and increase its proficiency. "Good night, Master," says Hikari as she lies right next to me. She's not clinging to me, at least for now. Is that a sign of growth? It feels a bit lonely, but let's not tell her that. I use map and presence detection before going to sleep, and don't see anything other than the knights and horses. They say the place where the bandits are supposed to be is 2 days from here. 2 days go by, and we reach our destination. We're going to camp here for today and see what things are like here. If they're here and come to attack us, we just have to beat them back. But if that doesn't happen, we have to go to the mountain where they're supposedly living. We want to avoid going there, because we're disguised as traveling merchants and it will definitely look suspicious if we head to the mountain. As for disguising ourselves as adventurers, there's really nothing of value around this area, so no adventurers go out of their way to go to the mountains. It's precisely because almost no one goes there that the bandits made it their nest. So, no good. We can't really tell from here. The knight's answer to Richard's question is simple, but it can't be helped. The mountain is too far to be seen with the naked eye. And if they are hiding there, it won't be in a place that's easy to spot. And even if I expand map, it still doesn't show me any bandits. What if we don't find any bandits? What happens to this quest if we don't take down the bandits? I actually thought it would be easier to find them, but in reality, if I approach the mountain to use map, they're going to get suspicious. Not to mention that the whole reason why the knights are disguised as merchants is so the bandits come to us and we don't have to go to their territory. We'll stay here for a few days, pretending that one of the wagons is broken, and if they still don't come, we could do a little scouting around the mountain. And if we still don't find them, we'll just have to go back and report that we couldn't find the bandits. The knights all think that it's too dangerous to raid the mountain with so few people, mostly because we don't know exactly how many bandits there are. They aren't here to defeat the bandits no matter what, and I have to follow along with that. I want to believe the feudal lord will understand if we tell him that, even if we end up not taking the bandits down. Walking in Another World, Chapter 239, Bandit Subjugation. Richard's point of view. Don't you have to sleep, little lady? She should be sleeping right now, but the girl, Hikari, just exited the wagon alone. Now that I think about it, it's the first time I've seen her do something without Sora. I need to talk about something, she says as she silently walks over here while swiftly looking over her surroundings. It's about Master. Sora? Yes, Master might not be able to take down bandits. I tilt my head when I hear that. When the feudal lord first told me someone would be joining us on this hunt, I asked who it was, and I was told it would be a traveling merchant. I wanted to complain, but the feudal lord is a fastidious man, who won't listen to anyone once he's made up his mind about something, and so, I stayed quiet and followed orders. And when I actually met this person, I worried even more. Then there was the trouble with Hikari, who kept insisting she wanted to come along. But judging by the way she carries herself, I actually think she could fill the role of Sora's guard, so I allowed her to join us. Despite her appearance, she doesn't move like a normal kid. Apparently Set misunderstood me. But this duty isn't kind enough that I would let those soft emotions drive me into bringing her to a dangerous place. We go after bandits from time to time, but I feel like this is different. One of the reasons why I feel that way, is that despite the lack of any reports of any real damage, the feudal lord ordered us to put together this team and carry out this mission very quickly. Although the Cheval Recorder not receiving detailed information doesn't necessarily mean it didn't reach the feudal lord's ears. Still, I wouldn't feel right letting a weak merchant put himself in danger by fighting with us, so along the way, I decided to test his skills. I offered the excuse of wanting to shake the cobwebs, and said we should do mock battles while we took a break, but the more I saw him fight, the more impressed I was by his sword skills. He's a good enough fighter. Set and the other newbies were completely outmatched, and even I lost when I let my guard down. Apparently he's been exploring a dungeon. A merchant? Really? Is what I thought, but I was even more surprised after fighting Hikari, and saw that she's even stronger than I thought. I'm not worried about Sora fighting anymore, and I think of him as a member of this team. And yet, here is Hikari saying he can't take down bandits. Why do you feel that way? Because of who the opponents are. She doesn't talk a lot, so it's a little hard to understand what she's trying to say. Because they're people? Yes. I don't think Master can kill people. People. I'm about to ask a question, but I stop. She says he can't kill people. And thinking about what that actually means. Yes, that will probably be dangerous. He's never fought a deadly battle against someone else? Probably. It happens with newbie knights too. Hesitation leads to danger, and if you're unlucky, death. Some knights have also quit over that. Killing people is simple, but not easy. Even adventurers that kill monsters as a part of their daily lives can feel reluctant to kill a person. Depending on the gap between the two opponents' power, it might be possible to capture someone alive, avoiding that issue. But we've been told there are a lot of bandits here. That's why most of the knights here are used to killing. So Sora has no experience killing people? He does, but her answer isn't clear. But he's a merchant, so I guess he wouldn't take the initiative to fight someone. He even says this is his first time fighting bandits. I understand. Thank you. But from what we've heard of their numbers, we probably won't have the leeway to help. Yes, I'll protect Master. I feel strong resolve in her eyes. But what about you? Are you alright? Hikari's expression changes for just a moment when she hears that. No, it's more like her expression was lost. Like her emotions disappeared, and only dark eyes were facing me. It makes me gulp without thinking. Yes, it's alright. Those words stay in my ears. She eventually goes back to the wagon. As I start sweating from my whole body, I open my hands, that I started clenching without realizing it, and are also sweaty. Alarm bells ring inside my head, warning me of danger. I think she's around my daughter's age, and this girl overpowered me. I feel fear, like a sharp blade was just thrust at my neck. Sora said she's a survivor of a village that was destroyed, that he took under his custody. That's what he said when Set asked why he's traveling with her as a special slave. Does Sora not know everything about Hikari? But they went to the dungeon together, so he must have seen her fight. Maybe he knows she can fight, but what's hiding inside her? Yes, he might not know that danger. I loosen my body, that it was completely stiff due to the tension, and let out a big sigh. Walking in Another World, Chapter 240, Bandit Subjugation, Part 5. I sense something with my presence detection, 2 days after we began pretending one of our wagons broke down, I immediately raise my head, and see Hikari looking the same way. "Is there something wrong, young lady?" asks Richard. "Yes, bandits are coming." Hikari drops her head, and comes this way. "I see," is all Richard says, before he leaves to inform the other knights. I think it's a little strange how he believes Hikari just like that, but I also see reactions from bandits, so I don't say anything. "There are 60 of them? That's about 4 times what we have." They're gradually making their way over here, but more than half stop before they leave the forest, and a group leaves the others and starts running through the forest. Are they going around to come at us from another side? Are they waiting to attack at night? Looks like it. We have good enough visibility that if they jumped out of the forest right now, we'd spot them immediately. They have the numbers advantage, so did they assume we'd run away if we saw them? Or are they waiting to see what happens with the group that went around before attacking? As I think that, another group leaves, this time in the opposite direction of the other. Is it a pincer attack? They might be trying to block our escape, but that lowers their numbers advantage. What exactly are they planning, to purposefully give up their advantage like that? I'm going to talk to him. Hikari is more active than usual. "Did something happen? Do you have a moment?" And not long after, Richard calls me, so we can talk about what to do next. They're most likely bandits, and from the way they're moving. Richard draws a mark on the ground to symbolize our current location, and 3 more around it. They want to go around and block the main road. First they block our escape route, and then they attack. The sun is still high in the sky, so they're probably waiting for nightfall. "So, what are we going to do?" asks Set, speaking for everyone. "We're going to start moving shortly." They even split their numbers for us, so we'll run in Croix's direction, and take them down individually. "Won't they run away?" "There's always that possibility. But I want to fight before the sun sets, if possible," says Richard, and a few knights nod. They have experience fighting at night, but apparently only in places with some light. They've reached the conclusion that once night falls, they'll have trouble even if they use magic items for night vision. I hear that it's particularly rough for people not used to them to see arrows that are painted black. Even if you have a shield, it won't do you much if you can't block with it in time. There are plenty of shields in the wagons too, with simple designs, so it's not obvious that they belong to knights. I was told this was an elite force, but there are also inexperienced knights here, like Set. Let's just pretend we're fixing the wagon, and after some time, act like we're done, and start moving again. If they bite, good. If they don't, we'll attack places where it looks like the enemy is hiding. Where are they? They're moving in the forest. That's why I think they're moving towards the main road, says Hikari all of a sudden, and a few knights are surprised to hear her. That doesn't include Richard, who simply agrees. "Young lady, can we leave the timing to move out up to you?" "Yes, leave it to me." And so, our plan is quietly set in motion. The bandits seem slow at first, as we start moving again all of a sudden, but they quickly gather their bearings, and start moving quickly. That's the impression I get from what I see on map. The group in the direction where we're heading gathers in the forest, while the one behind us jumps out and charges forward. They're not even trying to hide anymore. As for the others standing by in the forest, some jump out, and the others move around in the forest. Up until this point, the bandits seemed so sloppy that it was actually strange how they eluded the knights for so long. But things were already in motion. The wagons keep running through the main road without slowing down, and the bandits that came out of the forest have something that looks like a big crossbow, and takes 2 people to use. That's not good. "Ready your shields," Richard yells. Commands. Can the shields even block that thick steel? I have my questions, but I follow their instructions, and hide with Hikari behind them. An arrow falls on the ground close to a wagon, and breaks. If we try to attack from here, we won't reach them anyway. We can't aim with magic either because of the trees. If we use fire to burn the forest, we would catch them, but it could also spread even further. When I propose that to them, they say no, as I expected. We keep going while being vigilant, and judging by its trajectory, it looks like one of the arrows is going to hit us. But just as I think we're going to be hit, the arrow is repelled. Surprised? That's the commander's skill, Set says proudly, seeing me look surprised. Is that a defensive skill that works like a barrier? Its effect looks similar to what the kobold guards were using. Move behind us, newbies. We're jumping down. One stays to protect the driver, and the others move back. When we get close to the spot in the forest where we think they're hiding, the wagon slows down and knights start jumping down one after the other. Hikari and I follow them. I don't know if it's my stats or just because the wagon slowed down, but I land without losing my balance. The knights hold up their shields and I unsheath my sword. And then, I hold it against the knights that popped out of the forest. Walking in Another World, Chapter 241, Bandit Subjugation, Part 6. The bandits are the first to make a move, jumping out of the forest with close-range weapons in hand. There isn't that big of a difference in our numbers, so if they're choosing to come at us like this, is it safe to assume that they're confident in their abilities? The knights respond by holding up their shields and taking position while paying close attention to the bandits' movements. "Hurrah!" the bandits yell and charge. We're mostly just swinging our weapons at the ones directly in front of us, but when we subtract their wagon drivers and the ones guarding them, we're still outnumbered. Hikari and I split, and each move to one end of our line to support the knights being attacked by multiple people. One bandit is taken by surprise when I suddenly jump out from behind a knight, and stumbles after his attack is repelled. I don't miss that chance, and quickly unleash a sword slash. His sword is flung away, so I hit him with the flat of mine, leaving him unconscious. I raise my head to look for my next opponent, but the battle is already over. Is it over? Richard walks over here while surveying the area around us. He then slowly unsheaths his sword, and swings it down. Wow! His target is the bandit I left unconscious. The blade rips through his body, leaving a clearly fatal wound. I look at Richard, and he speaks plainly with a rigid look on his face. It might be good to capture them alive, but that depends on the time and place. Right now, killing is the correct option, at the very least, until we thin out their numbers more. His sharp eyes make it impossible for me to argue. He's right. If we leave him unconscious, he might recover and join them again while we fight. Even if we tied him up, he could still free himself. From that point of view, killing is the right choice. The bandits still outnumber us 3-1. But, are you all right, Master? As I struggle with what is right, Hikari talks to me. She grabs my hand, and looks up at me with a worried expression. I close my eyes, and take deep breaths until I calm myself. Then I picture it in my head. Killing a bandit. And I choke. I have killed someone before, but even that doesn't sit completely right with me. Back then, it was an emergency. For Mia's sake. No, that's just an excuse I made for myself, in order to pull the trigger. But what about now? They're the target of a subjugation quest, so it goes without saying that these bandits have been doing bad things. Regardless of their reasons, that fact doesn't change. They're bad people coming at us to kill us. There's no need to hold back. But I open my eyes, and see Hikari's. They're trembling with worry. If I hold back, Hikari, I feel disgust, and it stops me from thinking any further. I'm doing it again. Running away from what I do by making it about someone else. I look at the bandits coming this way to make up my mind. If I fire magic at that group now, that'll be enough to end that threat. I understand that, but that's all. I can't do it. Not yet anyway. Sora, you don't have to be in front if it's too much for you. You can focus only on protecting yourself when you're attacked. Is that all right with you too, young lady? Yes, got it. Richard starts giving instructions, and the knights take up formation. All I can do is watch from behind them. The clash starts in a very simple way. I guess neither side has long-range attacks, and they both attack head-on. I'm honestly surprised that the bandits are crashing into the knights without waiting for the others. They're throwing away their numerical advantage. But it might be because no one's taking command on their side. The second round ends with another overwhelming victory for the knights, and we start moving again. Apparently they want to secure a place where they can fight without having to worry about dodging bandit corpses. We follow the knights while watching their backs, and when they stop, we hear a flute. The bandits running this way slow down, and slowly walk with their weapons in hand. And then, the bandits running in the forest come out and join them. If they attacked, they could have probably taken out one of the groups, but Richard didn't give the order. I would have probably hesitated too if I was in command. The bandits approaching us now feel different than the others. I think Hikari is feeling it too, because she's putting away her dagger and gripping a throwing knife. Are they not retreating? The bandits' fighting force has been almost halved. These might be stronger than the others, but surely they saw how strong the knights are, even if they were far away. I would have thought they would retreat into the forest, either to lure the knights there or to escape. But it looks like they're planning to fight head-on. Could it be that this is just what bandits are like in this world? Master, they're coming. And just as Hikari says, the third round starts. Walking in Another World, Chapter 242, Bandit Subjugation, Part 7. The situation has entered a stalemate. The bandits aren't charging in unprepared like they were before, and are attacking with more organized movements. They're going around to attack the knights from different angles, and the knights have to change their formation to defend themselves. This means the knights are positioned almost in a complete circle, and each knight is fending off more than one bandit. Still, the knights' defense doesn't break, and they stand firm while looking for an opening. Hikari is focused on supporting them, quickly throwing knives when it looks like they're in trouble. I'm doing the same, but we still don't manage to create an opening. Master, I'm going in front. I guess Hikari also understands that, because she says that before jumping out. I don't even have time to stop her, as she runs through the knights and leaps at a bandit from a blind spot. Both the bandit and the knights are completely taken by surprise. She takes one down, then another, and jumps to the side to transition to another attack. A hatchet is buried deep in the ground where Hikari just was. When I see that, my body moves before I even realize it. When Hikari dodged, she landed in a poor position. Because she's pretty far from the knights, she's at risk of getting surrounded, and I see bandits that look like they're moving in to do just that. It looks like some of the knights have realized it too, and are moving in. But another unexpected thing happens. Suddenly, there's a scream. I turn to look, and see bandits slowly falling. Behind them are bandits with weapons dripping blood. When I look one in the eyes, a chill runs down my spine. If there's such a thing as intuition, that's what I'm feeling right now. There's a strange light in their eyes, as the bandits that attacked and killed the other bandits from behind charge forward. I block an attack, and it's so heavy that I grit my teeth. He's a lot stronger than the other bandit I fought. Each attack has a lot of weight behind it. Out of the corner of my eye, I see knights being blown back by attacks, even though they were blocking them just fine a moment ago. Looking around, I see some knights are also managing to cross swords with the bandits. And yet, half of the knights look like they're being overpowered. I unleash a sword slash to try to push through, and the bandit's weapon is flung away, because he can't handle an attack aided by a skill. I try to use this opening to throw a knife to keep another bandit in check, but he actually catches it and throws it back. I manage to quickly dodge it, but he then takes advantage of that to cut at me. I have to block his sword with one knee on the ground, and push back. Now that this bandit is close to me, I see he has bloodshot eyes, and seems to be mumbling something. Suddenly I think to use people appraisal, and what I see is name, Ricardo, job, criminal slave, level, 40, race, human, condition, crazed LV1. His level is lower than the knight's, but the weight I'm feeling makes me think he has a skill to make him stronger. Two things stick out to me. I didn't think to cast people appraisal on a bandit, but now that I have, it shows me he's a criminal slave. And then there's the status condition, crazed. I cast people appraisal on other bandits, and they're all criminal slaves. The difference is that not all of them have that status condition. The pressure in my hands is suddenly gone, and I almost fall forward. Hikari attacked the bandit from the side, and he jumped away. Are you all right, Master? Yes, thanks. So they're not just stronger, they're faster too? Retreat and regroup. Richard's voice echoes throughout the battlefield, and the battle line that had become stretched is being corrected. But the bandits don't just sit and let that happen. They jump at people and try to stop them from getting away. Still, they are split between the ones with the crazed status condition and the ones without it. I throw a knife at one with the condition, and then a fire arrow. The knife is supposed to hit him, and I cast magic in a way that it goes up just in front of him. As a result, I managed to pry that bandit away from the knight. Thanks. We regroup, and Set puts one knee on the ground as he composes his breathing. Drink this. I hand full potions to the knights that look spent. So you can attack with magic too. Thanks for your support. But what are you going to do now? Is he asking if Hikari and I are going to keep fighting? I look at the bandits slowly approaching, and think, if we run, the result is obvious. There's fewer bandits now, but they've actually become a bigger threat. I'm sure none of the knights will complain if we retreat. I'll fight. I can feel Hikari looking at me with a concerned expression, but we have to do something about them. I put away the chipped sword, and take out the mithril sword. I wasn't infusing it with magic energy, but it's still strange for that sturdy sword to get damaged like that. There are 18 bandits left, and 6 have the crazed status condition. Walking in Another World, Chapter 243, Bandit Subjugation, Part 8. Sorry Sora, but can I ask you to take on one of them? Richard's question catches me off guard for a moment, but I soon realize what he means, and nod. There are 6 experienced knights. Add me, and that makes 7. If I handle one of the crazed bandits, that leaves 1 knight free, and the other knights will rally around this free knight to take the bandits down. Got it. Thanks. But you don't need to go too far, just bite time. Richard leads the way, and the other 5 experienced knights attack the crazed bandits. I'm also going to fight one of them. Ricardo. We cross swords, and I feel how heavy his attack is on my hands. If I let my guard down for a second, I'll be pushed back, but I'm pretty sure I can outlast him when it comes to stamina, so I just need to stay calm and deal with his attacks while looking for an opening. But focusing on only guarding might lead him to get too carried away, so I also attack. I'm trying to break his weapon, but I guess his instincts are too good or something, because he swiftly dodges everything. There's definitely technique hidden inside that roughness. His moves make me a little impatient, but I quickly shake it off. I look at him and focus. If I use parallel thinking too, that should be enough to deal with him. But as the battle goes on, I start to feel like something isn't right. It feels like every attack gets heavier and heavier. Conversely, his technique was clean, but it's getting rougher and rougher. I feel like his movements are becoming simpler and turning into those of a low-intelligence monster. Why? I get curious, so I cast People Appraisal, and then Appraisal. Crazed LV1 boosts physical abilities a lot, but ones that can't adapt are slowly swallowed by it. Is that what's causing it? And probably because of that, as time goes by, opportunity presents itself. Ricardo holds up his sword high and swings it down, and after making it look like I would block it, I quickly pull my sword and dodge just before his sword hits mine. His sword hits the ground hard. I'm about to swing my sword too, but he's dealing with it too quickly. He's already pulling the sword from the ground. I activate Sword Rush to increase my speed, and just barely managed to break his sword. I was going for the base, but the sword is broken around the middle. He tries to use what's left of the sword to hit me with the handle, but I get close and aim for the pit of his stomach to knock him out. Yawa! I hear a pained scream, and it grabs my attention for a moment. It's that and the fact that parallel thinking is busy with appraisal. I see a knight on the ground, who was fighting against one of the crazed bandits. I sense bloodlust and face forward again, and Ricardo kicks me. I cross my arms and block it, but it lifts me a little, so my feet aren't on the ground. I see a twisted smile on Ricardo's face through my crossed arms, and I also see him swinging his broken sword. I can't block with my sword, but his sword is now shorter, so if I can avoid being hit in a vital spot, I can fight through the pain and counterattack. But then, my body is pushed to the side, and away from the trajectory of Ricardo's attack. And where I was, is now Hikari. Hikari. Her small body is blown away, and when I land, I rush to her and hold her. There's blood on my hand, and she feels limp. I quickly take out a potion and try to get her to drink it, but she coughs and spits it out. Are her internal organs damaged? The wound looks deep, and I'm horrified when I think about how it would be if the sword wasn't broken. Heal. I cast holy magic instead of using a potion, but I don't know if it's my imagination or what, but it doesn't seem to work very well. I can see out of the corner of my eye that Ricardo is drawing near. His face is painted with sadism. No, that's the expression of someone whose power of reasoning is gone. I can feel myself flare up when I see that. But as I'm about to get up, I feel a hand touching me, like it's to stop me. When I turn to look, I see Hikari with her eyes barely open. My hot head cools down very quickly when I see her. I can't let anger take over and run to kill. If I'm going to do it, I need to think, prepare myself, and do it willingly. I rub the hand touching me to reassure her, and Hikari slowly closes her eyes. After carefully putting her down on the ground, I get up and ready my weapon again. I look around, and see things aren't going well. The magic I cast on Hikari is nothing more than first aid either, and she needs actual treatment. I was panicking and didn't think about that, but I could have poured the potion on the wound. But it's too late now, and taking Ricardo down takes precedence. I take a step forward, then another, and after the third, I run and quickly close the distance between us. As I use that momentum to swing my sword down, he tries to block it with his broken sword. His mind has eroded to the point where he's not even thinking about it anymore. My sword passes right by where the tip of the broken sword should be, and easily cuts Ricardo's body. Is it because it's infused with magic, or because it's a mithril sword? Whatever the reason, it doesn't feel like I'm cutting flesh and bone. Blood sprays from the slash across his shoulder, but Ricardo is still coming at me. Does he not feel pain? He's like a zombie. If that's the case, I need to cut his neck and make sure he goes down for good. I do just that, and after a couple more steps, Ricardo slowly falls to the ground, and doesn't move again. Walking in Another World, Chapter 244, Bandit Subjugation, Part 9. The moment I take down Ricardo, I feel a sound like a fanfare playing in my head. I wonder what that's about, but I need to do what must be done now. I need magic energy, and get 10 fire arrows ready. They look like 10 red spears hovering in the air, and it feels weird that they don't feel hot even though they're so close to me. I fire them with the help of parallel thinking, and they fly towards 5 bandits. 3 either dodge or smack them down, but the other 2 are hit. But even though they're covered in flames, they're still moving into attack, so I get close to finish them with slashes. Sora, support and heal. Richard is surprised, but I throw him an item bag with various potions inside. Thanks. Richard runs to a knight near him that's on the ground, and I run in the opposite direction. Then I slash someone's back diagonally, and end a life no questions asked. I feel nauseous, but as the bandit falls, I see the face of a surprised knight, and hold it back. I'm really not used to killing people, but strangely enough, I feel less repulsed by it than I would expect. Then, I hear another scream rip through the battlefield. I turn to look, and see a bandit was hit on the top of the head, and is spraying flesh and blood. A knight that saw that up close screams, and a man runs past the bandit that was just killed and swings his sword horizontally at him. The knight quickly blocks with both his sword and his shield, but the sword breaks, the shield is crushed, and the big man is blown back. Everyone quiets down after seeing that. It's like time is standing still. And it stays like this until that bandit laughs triumphantly, breaking the silence. Name, Gonza. Job, criminal slave. Level, 53. Race, half demon. Condition, crazed LV2. He looks half insane, but I see what looks like reasoning power behind his eyes. He looks around the battlefield like he's calmly surveying the situation. That man, Gonza, locks eyes with me, and I immediately hold up my sword and swing it despite no one being in front of me. And even though there was no one there, the next moment, Gonza is here holding up his sword. Hey, good instincts. We're more or less evenly matched in terms of power, but his speed is no joke. I doubt I'd be able to handle it without parallel thinking. But can you keep up with this? First the triumphant yell, now this. Is he just crazy for battle? And he seems to be missing the vital organs in a weird way. It's like he's piling on the damage without going for fatal attacks. Basically, like he's playing with me. Is his goal to slowly weaken his opponents to torture them? He's doing this even though there are enemies, the knights, around. This is no joke. I try to attack when I see an opening, but he dodges perfectly. In the end of this intense back and forth, I take some distance. His stamina doesn't last forever either, and I see him composing his breathing. Meanwhile, I keep a close eye on him as I think back to what I saw earlier with appraisal. 2 things stick out to me. First, is crazed LV2. Maybe I'm wrong, but I get the feeling that he leveled up because he killed one of the crazed bandits. I can't think of any other reason. The second, is that it says he's a half-demon. I'm pretty sure it said human the last time I checked. It changed suddenly. Is that an effect of the crazed status? I think about it that far, until I realize that this information isn't going to help me defeat him, and that's what I need to focus on. I check my status, and wonder if I should change jobs to warrior. But then space-time magic would become unusable. It's already hard to use with the job I have now. It's because I'm infusing mithril with magic energy while I fight. But there's something ominous about his sword too. It makes sense, after casting appraisal. Since we're more or less even in terms of strength, I figure the best option could be to attack while using gravity magic, but I can't see it going in any other way than him dodging it. Every time I use sword slash, he jumps back and dodges it. Are his instincts just that good? Is he used to fighting? But then, I notice something on my stats that wasn't there before. But just as I start to think about it, I sense danger and swing my sword sideways. A metallic sound echoes, and sparks fly as the swords clash. Hey, what are you looking at? Taking it easy, aren't we? What's he talking about? That attack was a little slow too. Did he do that on purpose so I would block it? Next, he kicks me. I block it with the bottom of my foot, and use the momentum to run back. But Gonza sees that, and dashes to close the distance again. What now? I'm being pushed into doing nothing but defend. I want to check what I saw before too. And I'm also concerned about Hikari. I did what amounts to first aid, but her condition was really bad. I want to treat her properly, and just as I'm thinking that, an idea pops into my mind. I don't know if it'll work, but it's worth trying. The moment I land, I lunge forward with my sword sticking out. Gonza sweeps it away with the flat of his, and flows into holding up his sword to slash at me. I can't let him do that, so I take a step forward to get close to him. And then I touch Gonza with my free hand and chant, "Recovery." That brings his crazed status to level 1. I don't let that chance get away, and push Gonza with my shoulder, before using the space that creates to swing my sword. Gonza blocks it by using his sword as a shield, and this time it's him who uses momentum to get away. When he lands, he starts moving his body like he feels there's something wrong with it. But then he tilts his head, like he can't figure out what it is. That makes sense. The crazed status condition is back to level 2. But I take advantage of this opening to check what I saw earlier, and a few new skills are displayed in front of me. Before, he attacked me because he saw my eyes move. So this time I try to be more subtle. New MP Consumption Reduction LV1. It has the effect to lower MP consumption every time I use magic. That gives me more leeway when I use magic, but I need to recover MP first. I take out a throwing knife, and prepare to put an end to this fight. Walking in Another World, Chapter 245, Bandit Subjugation, Part 10. First, I need time to drink an X mana potion. There's no point in learning MP consumption reduction if I don't have MP to use magic in the first place. I finish setting up a stationary type of magic, and throw knives. Gonza dodges one and blocks another with his sword, but the third is infused with magic. It explodes at just the right time, but his good instincts or whatever mean he manages to take a big jump back and evade it. Fortunately, that attack didn't really need to hit. The whole idea was for him to go back, but he would have probably been hit by the magic I set up earlier if he moved forward too. I activate the firewall, and it stands between me and Gonza. That'll buy me some time, so I take out an X mana potion and drink it while stepping back. I can't actually see Gonza now, but I can still track his movements with presence detection. I think he knows my intention is to buy time, because he swings his sword at the firewall to open a hole and jumps through it. But then an earth wall goes up. Of course, he doesn't care, and tackles it to break through. This guy really is crazy. I hold up my magic energy-infused mithril sword, and get ready to intercept. The earth wall slowed him down, but he dodges my sword, repels it, and counters. My wounds keep piling up, but I keep at it, and when our swords cross, fire arrow. I shoot it at his face. But despite the short distance, he twists his body and swings his neck to dodge it. The fire arrow passes right by his head. What kind of reflexes are these? At least I threw off his balance, so I step forward, and recovery. I chant, followed by space-time magic. Time shift. Gonza is inside my range, so time starts flowing slower for him. This has the effect of slowing his movements, but also extending the effect of recovery. Surprisingly, despite the crazed level going down, and despite time moving slower for him, Gonza is still attacking. He's incredibly fast, for someone whose time is flowing slower, and he's going for my vital organs. Does he feel something isn't right? Is it just pure instinct? He's attacking not to harm me, but with attacks optimized to take my life without any wasted effort. That's probably why those attacks feel so fast. But, although not by much, they miss. It's probably down to the difference in our frames of mind. I'm thinking about what might happen, and trying to hit him with an attack that will kill him as quickly as possible. I don't swing my sword. Instead, I infuse it with magic energy, and unleash a sword master attack aimed at his heart. Pierce. I feel some resistance on the tip of my sword as it penetrates his body, but it pierces him with no issues. That's where the heart should be, at least in a human. I raise my head, and lock eyes with Gonza, who has a surprised expression on his face. He vomits blood, and slumps forward. After I pull out my sword, his body slowly falls. After seeing him go down, I cut his neck with the mithril sword. It's over. I feel my strength leaving my body. But then I remember Hikari, so I try to run to her, but instead walk. If I actually run, I'm going to collapse. And so, I walk as quickly as I can while trying to clear my head of any stray thoughts. Hikari, the knights are trying to tell me something, but I ignore them. Hikari's breathing is unstable, and she looks pale. I tried to give her a potion, but she coughed out most of it. Her mouth is red, and I smell blood. She faintly opens her eyes when I call out to her, but it doesn't look easy for her. Her usually expressionless face is twisted with pain. I'm about to put my hand on her to cast heal, but stop. I tried this before, so there's no need to do it again. If I can't heal her from the outside, I have to heal her from the inside. Heal and potions should be working, but they're being repelled somehow. Heal's effect isn't great, and she's coughing out potions instead of drinking them. Pouring a potion on her wound isn't working well either. Is this no good too? Then, I pour full potion on my mouth, and infuse it with magic energy while picturing the heal spell. Then I slowly transfer it to Hikari's mouth. She's surprised at first by my mouth touching hers, but she closes her eyes and relaxes. Her throat moves up and down, signaling to me that the potion is flowing to her body. But I don't want to panic and send in too much, so I'm careful and keep an eye on it. As I do it slowly, I do it again, and her breathing seems more stable, despite her face still looking pale. Is it blood loss? Hikari, can you drink this? I sit her up and hold her to have her drink a blood-forming potion I made before. That brings some color back to her face gradually. She opens her eyes slightly again, and an awkward smile forms on her face when our eyes meet. Is she trying to reassure me? I'm so relieved that I hold her tightly. Master, that hurts. Hearing her makes me lose my strength again, and she ends up holding me this time. Thanks, Master. Why yes, thank goodness. Really? I hug Hikari again, not so strongly this time. Feeling her warmth in my arms makes me lose all my strength, this time for good. There's a lot of noise around us, but all that matters to me right now is that Hikari is safe. Walking in Another World, Chapter 246, Subjugation Report. Sad's point of view. And that is all that happened during this bandit subjugation. I silently nod after hearing Richard's report. When he stops talking, I get the feeling that there is more he wants to say, but I ignore it. And was he helpful? Yes. If they weren't there, we would have been the ones who were wiped out. They? All right. Good job. Take it easy and rest. I point to the door with my eyes, and he bows and leaves. I'm glad he is a good learner and a rational person, or he would have probably thrown more words at me. I watch the door for a bit after Richard leaves, and then give instructions to my butler. The instructions are to be carried out in 3 days. He is to be allowed to board a ship to Alta, and receive the permit. And I also ask him to take care of the formalities and contacting the ones responsible for the ship. I should probably call him here and give him the permit myself, but I'm hesitant to do so. Honestly, I'm scared to see him. The guy himself isn't scary. In fact, he feels rather unimportant. What scares me is the whole situation around him. I dismissed the thoughts in my head asking who he was exactly, but my instincts tell me not to get involved with him. I asked the butler to leave, and slumped down deep in my chair. It was the day after I met him. Mr. Sad, you have a visitor. Visitor? I don't have anything scheduled today. Who is bothering me while I work? It was so annoying. My plans were disturbed the previous day, and they were doing the same thing again. I raised my head with anger, and felt my blood freeze. See Captain Alfred. In front of me stood Alfred, the captain of the Dragon King's Royal Guard. She has green eyes, and hair flowing down to her waist. Her facial features could be described as being like a work of art, but her expression seems put on, making her emotions hard to read. She looks to be in her 20s at first glance, but her dragon ancestry means she has a long lifespan, so it's said that her appearance has been the same since the days of my grandfather, maybe even further back. Her eyes moved, and even that was enough to make me nervous. Is there anything you need? I have an order from the king. That emotionless voice brought me a fear I can't describe. I accepted that official letter with trembling hands, and read it. Do you understand? Why yes. Then carry it out. But this. I didn't say any more. There was anger in those eyes. I got the distinct feeling that my head would fly if I said another word. I calmed myself. Taking an outsider to Alta is seen as something shameful. That place is seen by people of the Dragon Kingdom as a holy land. These thoughts went unexpressed, but I was against sending slaves there. But it was the Dragon King's decision, so there was nothing that could be done about it. Even I can't go to Alta without a good reason. But the Dragon King was giving me permission, with conditions attached. That meant it was my job to fulfill them. Excuse me, I will make arrangements immediately. Good. Then make preparations when he arrives. I didn't understand what she meant at the time, but the next day when I sent a messenger to the inn I heard about, I was told he accepted a quest and left the town. That meant all I could do was wait, and prepare in any way I could in the meantime. The quest directed to me was one to hunt bandits. We also patrol regularly, but we hadn't heard of any rumors about bandits that would warrant dispatching knights. Of course, there was a chance that it simply wasn't reported to me, and they wanted me to include him in that quest to take down the bandits. I remembered hearing he was a merchant, and wondered if he wasn't just going to be a hindrance. Not to mention that they even specified what knights were going. Not just the number, they named specific people. It was the Dragon King, so surely there was some sort of meaning. But it was a waste to wonder what it was. Surely it wasn't something for a regular person to understand. After remembering all that, I think back to what Richard said. If it wasn't for him, the knights would have been wiped out. That means he's better than the knights. But that's not all that sticks out to me. The slave crest. I've heard of it. It was something used to identify slaves before the advent of slave collars. That technique was supposed to have been phased out after the introduction of the collars, and yet, all the bandits had that slave crest. Did they wander in from some other country? Or it gets stranger the more I think about it, and that guy is at the center of it. I smiled to myself awkwardly, thinking that he's on my mind again after I decided earlier to not think about it anymore. I need to get this out of my hands as soon as possible. I don't know what's going on, but it's none of my business. My job is to govern this town, Marty, and prevent any disasters from befalling this Dragon Kingdom. I've been hearing rumors about demons appearing, and I need everything to be ready just in case too. Then again, when Alfred's face pops into my mind, it makes me wonder if I'm not worried over nothing. In a way, the reason why this country can stick to its policy of isolationism is because of its strength. Although geography plays an important part too. It's said that with 10 members of the Royal Guard around, it would be impossible to capture a single town. Not that I or anyone around me can know that for sure. I straighten my back on my chair, and do my job as I always do, going through the same documents as always. Walking in Another World, Chapter 247, See Isa. We're back. The sun has already set by the time we get back to the inn. We managed to get through the gate and into the town because we were with the knights. Hikari and I have a late dinner, and go up to the room to report. But that's when it happens. Let's go take a bath. Big Sister Sarah. You're in a good mood. Yes, I became an adult. I feel stares that are practically stabbing me. That sharpness could kill someone. It doesn't, of course. Sarah looks at me, and mouths good luck, before leaving with Hikari. That's it. And so, I'm left here sitting on my knees. And as I'm thinking that apparently Sea Isa exists in this world too, I remember that I mentioned it to Hikari before, and she knew what it meant. It checks out. See, can you explain what is going on? I almost laugh at how weirdly worked up Chris is. But I get the feeling that would be disastrous. Yes. What is the meaning of this? Mia leans forward and puts her face ever closer to mine, until Rurika pulls her back. I feel like this is going to get worse the longer I prolong it, so I just come out and say it. I didn't do anything wrong anyway. After hearing my explanation, the two girls loosen up completely. I see. Is Hikari alright? She should be if she takes it easy. But, Kiss. Chris sounds worried, and Mia's face is bright red. I understand why it happened, but you shouldn't carelessly do that sort of thing. Watch out for that. I know. But what else could I do? I wouldn't have done it if there wasn't a life on the line, I say after nodding to Chris. If there was anyone else that could help her, I would have asked them. Well, it depends. Also, I think my holy magic is weak. Can you look after her, Mia? I don't use it a lot to begin with, so its level is low. I mostly use potions to heal. Of course. Leave her to me. And with that, I'm finally released. My legs aren't actually tired, even though they were on the floor. This body's gotten pretty tough. So what's the plan going forward? Asks Ruruka, and I tell her someone should contact me tomorrow. I played a good part in that whole thing, so I doubt he's going back on his promise. Although when I remember Sad's high-strung face, I start to get a little unsure about that. I want to go to the Slavat tomorrow, but I feel a dangerous mood filling the air around me again. And stop. What do you mean? Do you want to buy another slave? Do you have a problem with me? You can do whatever. Can you tell me more about that too? Did I say something weird? Did I? I'm not going there to buy a slave. Then why? Ruruka, your eyes are kind of scary. I want to free Sarah. The money isn't an issue, but we couldn't do it around the time when we left Majolica because of everything that was going on, right? So I want to go there tomorrow if we have the time. I guess they forgot all about it too. Not that I'm one to talk. Why yes. Then let's go there tomorrow. I want to do something about Mia and Hikari too, but Mia denies it. But that slave collar really does attract attention. Some strangers who have no idea of the circumstances behind it even look at her with scorn. There's no way being subjected to that feels good. The problem is that it's helpful when we travel, because it bypasses having to have identification. She died once already, but can we register her with the guild? Identification. Could we buy it? I don't have an answer to that question. Eventually, Sarah and Hikari come back, and the other three go take a bath. Hikari usually sits close to me, but she's sitting next to Sarah with a proper posture. Anyway, I tell Sarah that we were talking about freeing her as a slave, and she touches the collar. That's great, isn't it, big sister Sarah? Hikari tilts her head, because Sarah looks more bewildered than happy. Then she laughs awkwardly. Probably because she noticed we're looking at her. I mean, I never thought I'd actually live to see the day when I'd be freed. There's probably something I can't understand behind that mixed expression, and I can't bring myself to ask what it is. Anyway, we were talking about going there tomorrow, unless they suddenly tell us we can go to the island right away. Sarah silently nods, and I go take a bath too. It's nice how even relatively cheap inns in Marti have baths. There are even places that are like bathhouses that the townspeople can use. I can't deny that a large bath sounds appealing, but I'm not going to be able to relax with a lot of people around. Soaking in a quiet bath really is the best. Walking in Another World, Chapter 248, Breaking the Limit. Name, Sora Fujimiya. Job, Sorcerer. Race, Otherworlder. No level. HP, 1020 MP, 1020 plus 200, SP, 1020 Strength. 1010, plus 0, Stamina. 1010, plus 0, Agility. 1010, plus 0, Magic Power. 1010, plus 200, Dexterity. 1010, plus 0, Luck. 1010, plus 0, Skill, Walking. LV 101, Effect, user won't get tired no matter how much they walk. Get 1 experience point with each step. Experience points, 70,206. 300,000. Skill points, 45. Skills learned. Appraisal. LV max. People appraisal. LV max. Appraisal obstruction. LV 7. Parallel thinking. LV max. Sword master. LV max. Physical strengthening. LV max. Presence detection. LV max. Magic energy detection. LV 9. Natural recovery boost. LV max. Status ailment resistance. LV 8. Pain reduction. LV 6. Presence concealment. LV 9. Night vision. LV max. Throw, shooting. LV 8. Intimidate. LV 6. MP consumption reduction. LV 1. Magic energy control. LV max. Basic daily life magic. LV max. Fire magic. LV 9. Water magic. LV 8. Wind magic. LV 8. Earth magic. LV 9. Light magic. LV 6. Dark magic. LV 6. Spatial magic. LV max. Holy magic. LV 7. Alchemy. LV max. Effect attachment. LV 9. Creation. LV 9. Transfer. LV 6. Gravity magic. LV 3. Space-time magic. LV 2. Cooking. LV max. Title: One Who Broke the Limit. I check my stats, and see Walking's level is now 101. When I fought Gonza, It showed a message. Conditions met. Release upper limit. The fanfare that played in my head when I killed Ricardo was probably signaling this, but what conditions were those? Killing people? I don't think so, because I killed that assassin in the Holy City. Or maybe it had to do with killing multiple people. I think about it that far, when I realize it doesn't matter. The conditions have already been met anyway. What I really should be doing is checking if there are any new skills I can use. It was the case with MP consumption reduction too, but it seems the new skills listed are treated as high-rank skills, and I need at least 3 skill points to learn them. But I also feel like they have effects to match. Of course, there are useful skills among the ones that were here already, so I'm honestly at a loss. If I can go over level 99, that means I can get more skill points. I want to keep some points, because I might need them in a pinch like before. But I've ended up with quite a lot accumulated, and I need to consider what will happen when I stop traveling too. Still, I want to learn more skills, so I picked 2. New, life-granting LV1. Replication LV1. Life-granting's effect is to give life to any object. After reading the description, I decided I want it for when I explore dungeons. I think I can use it to give life to dolls and create golems. There are limitations, like how long they can stay active, but it looks like they'll be useful for things like keeping watch, or serving as shields. And apparently I can do more things with the skill as it levels up. It should be useful for when we camp on the road too. The other skill is also one that should be useful in the future, replication. This one can replicate an item, but it's not perfect either. For example, I can't just duplicate something like my mithril sword and own 2 of them. There's a time limit, and once it's reached, the duplicated item disappears, and I need to have at least touched the materials I want to replicate. Also, it looks like I can replicate things that I don't have anymore, as long as I've used the replication skill on them before. So for example, I can replicate a mithril sword even if it breaks. It should be useful if I find myself urgently needing a weapon, but I need to check how long its effects lasts. I checked a lot of other stuff, and found pretty useful things. The problem is that they all look like they'd put a strain on my MP. Our goals for now are to cross over to Altair, get the laurel tree fruit, and check the Slava there. We have time, but I want us to have plenty of leeway when we cross the mountain again on the way back to Majolica. And who knows if we can get the laurel tree fruit without any issues. We might have another unreasonable demand pushed on us again. I let out a big sigh, and fall on the bed. That's enough thinking. I want to talk about this with the others too. I look at the inn's ceiling, and raise my hand. Strange. I felt reservations about killing people before I left for that bandit hunt, and just thinking about it made my heart beat faster. My hands tremble too, but that's gone now. I don't feel anything even when I remember the feeling of slashing through someone's flesh. Is this because I killed multiple people? Or, I don't have any regrets, but I'm afraid of my heart turning into something different. Walking in Another World, Chapter 249, Slave Liberation and Slave Crest. Understood, so I just need to show this in the wharf. A messenger from the feudal lord arrived just as we were finishing breakfast, with the permit to board a ship. It will leave after lunch, and we need to make sure we're there on time. But it's not today, so we're going to the Slava like we planned. I see. This will free the slave, but that's not a problem, right? No problem. Sarah and I face each other on top of a shady-looking magic circle, and as the Slava chants a slave-freeing spell, the collar around Sarah's neck breaks in two and falls on the ground. Are you all right? Yes. Sarah looks up, as if surprised by my question. And then, I wipe the tears streaming down her cheeks. You're crying, I say, and she realizes she's crying. She didn't notice it at all. Rurika and Chris come running, and they all smile at each other with tears in their eyes. I hear something and look around, and see that Mia, and for some reason the Slava, are crying too. Hikari is just staring at Rurika, Chris, and Sarah. Do you want that off too? No. This is proof. I don't understand what Hikari means. The three of them calm down and come back, and we decide to celebrate Sarah's freedom by going to the only sort of cafe in Marti that sells Japanese-style sweets, and eat cake there. And after we leave, we wander around town. I notice that Sarah is a little more animated than usual, surely because she's been liberated from that bond after such a long time. She usually has the air of an older sister around her, so it feels novel how she's smiling more. Thanks. Thank you. Rurika and Chris both thank me, But when I tell them we wouldn't have taken so long if they were the ones who bought her, they look at me with perplexed expressions. 500 gold coins is a lot of money. They tell me they were saving money, in case the people they were looking for really did end up as slaves. But when they were reunited with Sarah, they didn't have quite enough money to buy her yet. But on the other hand, does that mean they got a lot of money for those potions? I don't know how much they were worth before, but I imagine the war and the appearance of the Demon King increased their demand. People were pretty happy when I picked medicinal herbs, so there probably aren't a lot of people accepting those quests to begin with. That's not it. It's that there aren't that many people that can pick them like you. Yes, people don't normally pick that much in a single day. If they do pick a lot, it's because they stayed there for days. Yes, but that also increases expenses, meaning profits aren't as high too. I see, so that's what it is. I picked that skill because it seemed like a standard one, but it really wasn't a bad choice at all. The appraisal skill really is overpowered. That night, we all gather in Hikari and the others' room again to talk about what I saw during the bandit hunt. Are slave crests a common thing? I ask, and 3 of them tilt their heads. Hikari doesn't really react to my question, because she heard about them from Richard too. Where did you learn about that? Asks Chris with kind of a scary face. When I was fighting the bandits. The ones that attacked us were actually criminal slaves. I used appraisal on them, so there's no doubt about it, but they didn't have collars. And then Richard, one of the knights, told me that the patterns on the bandits were actually slave crests. Really? But we don't hear about slave crests much nowadays. I have never seen one either. Then how come you know about them? Grandma Morrigan taught me about them. Then we turn to Rurika and Sarah, who look away for some reason. Rurika never really liked to study. Well, I was still a little kid, Chris says with a sigh. And Rurika responds, I'm assuming that since Sarah's name didn't come up, this happened after the war. But as for slave crests, I don't think they are in use in any of the countries we visited, although they might be used in less legal slave routes. So Shadyslavers. Wait, we're getting off track. Do slave crests have any bad effects on the people that carry them? I have never heard of that. Did something happen? I talk about what happened when we fought the bandits, from beginning to end. If you cast appraisal on them, that means it's probably right. But, crazed? Yes, like something made them go crazy. That is news to me. And it made them stronger? I can't think of any other reason. Yes, and one got stronger all of a sudden when he killed another. Hikari backs me up. And Sora, he must have been really strong if he was able to go toe-to-toe with you. Sarah is still having trouble saying my name. It just goes to show how long she had to call people master. He was fast too, says Hikari, sounding frustrated, and making me remember just how strong he was. Maybe it was just an isolated incident, but we should report it. I don't know if I should report the part about him being a half-demon, so I keep that to myself. They don't even know about the crazed status condition, so I might end up fanning up some weird worries. And I don't even have evidence, because he went back to human after he died. It's still a little hard for me to believe it too, to the point where I wonder if I didn't just see something that wasn't there. Sully's face suddenly pops into my mind, but there's nothing I can do about it. If only I had a phone. I've actually tried and failed to make a magic item to use for communication already. Walking in Another World, Chapter 250, Intermission, Part 11. What happened? Hey, see, calm down. Calm down? How can I calm down? Hey, be quiet for a second! Exclamation mark. So, how are things, actually? Why yes. Needless to say, we're doing all we can. That's obvious. But you didn't prevent that attack, right? That's. Maybe there was a traitor. We have been talking about investigating that. And we have been putting pressure on that country. As for those two, we have found highly effective potions in the magic state, and we are working towards getting our hands on them. I see. I remember hearing about a saint existing in this world. Can't we ask her? It's hard to say, but the saint is unavailable right now. Unavailable? Why yes. We received reports that she was killed by a demon. Yes. I understand. Just heal them as soon as possible. Oh of course. Yes. Hey, let's go. Master Swordsman, can I have a moment? All right. Go on without me. So, where are we going? There is something we want you to try. Master Swordsman. This way. Here? That is a sealed space where only specific people can enter. Specific people? Yes, those with royal blood. This way. Yes. Only heroes can enter here. You really do have the title of hero, Master Swordsman. Well, yes. This way then. What is this? A sword? Yes, a sacred sword that is said to only be usable by heroes. Please use it to eliminate the Demon King. All right. Then this. I understand. Please entrust us with treating the Paladin and the Saint. When am I leaving? We are calling out to all countries, and we will all attack at once when everything is ready. We ask that you heroes accompany us when the time comes. Very well. Will they be helpful? We are gathering capable people, and the chivalric order is also set to leave. We want to lower your burden as much as we can. So, is it over? Yes. Damn annoying kids. How may I be of assistance? Hurry up with the delivery of the potions we originally planned. We still need those two to work for us. We need bait to use them. But the people looking after them report that the Saint's condition is serious. That's fine. The heroes will work so long as the Paladin is healed, and we might need to administer some brainwashing along with the healing. That one is pretty strong-minded, but it should work in this weakened state. Even if it doesn't work completely, it should be enough to guide her into being useful for us. Very well. I will have that done. And the Saint, leave her as a backup to activate a barrier. Are you sure? It's a waste, but we need to be prepared just in case. If the Sword King says something, tell him we are safeguarding her because she is in no state to fight. And what happened to the Sorcerer King? He is in a state of confusion. His mental state is very unstable. Then the technique should work easily. The Sorcerer King won't be useful against the Demon King, but he could be a good outrider for the monsters. As you wish. Good grief. It's said that things are tough after defeating the Demon King, and yet, there are so many useless people among the ones summoned this time. Notify all countries. Though I wonder how many will actually get off their backsides. What if they don't do anything? The result will be the same. The Demon King will fall to the heroes. It has always been that way, and it will always be. We will just have the uncooperative countries pay reparations later. Walking in Another World, Chapter 251, Altair, Part 1. The ship arrives before I know it. It probably didn't even take an hour, and we spent most of the time waiting for the ship to actually leave. Does the ship use magic for propulsion? It's surprisingly quiet and fast. It goes without saying that it took a lot longer to unload the baggage the wagons were carrying before it left, and from what I could see, it was mostly food, and it was so much that I'm now wondering where on the island it was all produced. And now that I'm on Altair, I'm wondering that even more. I had a good view of the city from the deck of the ship, but I didn't see anything that looked like a farm. Since the city is surrounded by walls, we came in through a water gate to reach the port. There's a giant tree here, that was also visible from Marty, and its branches and leaves spread out like a big umbrella. And since the island is cone-shaped like a mortar, the actual city is along the walls. In front of us is a big gate, and according to what I've been told, the castle where the dragon god lies beyond it. Also, the castle is surrounded by another lake, so the only way there is through this gate. Well then, visitors, this way. The person guiding us is the captain of the ship, Toruko. This doesn't seem like it should be his job, but I guess that's just how rare it is for people to come here. The people we pass by on the streets also look at us with curious expressions. I feel like there are more demi-humans like beast people than humans. Some of them look unsure, and some even a little cautious around us. And unless I'm just imagining it, there seems to be a lot of kids too. Don't think badly of them. Some of them used to be slaves. According to Toruko, there are people here that were slaves brought from the Empire, so some of them are afraid of humans. It got even worse after the war. Some healed their wounds to a certain extent before returning to their country, and others decided to stay in this country and make a life for themselves here. Is the manager here? Who was yelling? Oh, Toruko. Yes, I brought guests from the outside. Can I leave them with you? Sure. 6 of them. Are you staying in separate rooms, or in one room? She asks while looking at us closely, and I notice the look she gives to Hikari and Mia. One room please, Ruroku says before I can say anything. She takes us to a large room with multiple beds. There's even a bath too. Isn't this expensive? It's a bit too luxurious, so it gets me worried about the price. We made quite a bit of money, but I'm still reluctant to splurge. I checked it before, but it doesn't seem to be. Apparently it's pretty cheap. One night for 6 people with 3 meals included is 2 silver coins per person, that is. I don't think it can be divided evenly, but I guess it is what it is. Let's not think about it too much. But is there a reason why we're all staying in one room? It kind of feels like a treat as far as I'm concerned, but are you sure about this? I guess so. No one really seems bothered by it. I figured you would think that's strange, but be a little more vigilant, says Rurika with a sigh, before she starts explaining it. This is our first time in this city on a lonely island surrounded by walls. We should stay together and be ready for anything. Of course, this place does not seem dangerous, but still, who knows what might happen, adds Chris, and Sarah nods. That's a perfectly valid reason, so I have nothing to say. The room is already taken anyway. More importantly, what now? The sun is still high in the sky, and we haven't had lunch yet. We didn't give them a lot of time to prepare a meal, considering when we arrived, but we were told they'd have it ready for us right away when I showed the permit. Although they seemed apologetic about only being able to put something together with what they have readily available. I was actually curious before about why staying in this inn includes 3 meals, but the answer became clear on the way here. We walked through the main street, but I didn't see a single food stall. At first I thought that maybe there are stalls in other places, but it's still an unbelievable sight, when compared to the other towns and cities we've visited so far. I saw Hikari looking all around too, but after asking about it, I learned that there really aren't any stalls in this city. Apparently there's not much point in anyone setting them up, since this place rarely gets visitors. People usually carry packed lunches with them or eat at home. But then why is there even an inn? Well, its main purpose is actually to provide those packed lunches, and food and drinks in the morning and at night. A lot of their customers are single adventurers and soldiers, so it sounds like a service necessary for people that aren't good at cooking. What about tomorrow's lunch? We don't know what's going to happen, or what the plan is. Can we get packed lunches and eat them here? Sure. As you can see, this place is empty during the day. We're here in Altair, but we still don't know exactly how we're going to get the laurel tree fruit. I'm thinking we need to go around the city and gather information this afternoon. Walking in Another World, Chapter 252, Altair, Part 2. See you later. We decided to walk around the city after lunch, but Hikari and Miu are staying in the inn. I'm going to the Adventurer Guild with the others. After leaving the inn, we go down a stairway outside, and head towards a big building facing the gate from the right side. There's another big building across the street, but apparently that's the guards station. There's no one here, says Chris, as there's no one inside that looks like an employee. The building being so big just makes it feel even more empty. I feel like there aren't a lot of quests affixed on the wall either. Actually, scratch that, there are almost none. I haven't seen you around. Are you outsiders? Receptionists tend to be beautiful ladies in pretty much every guild, but here, there is only a man and a woman, who both look very refined. Yes, this is our first time here. We have a few questions, so will it be alright if we ask them? It feels like Rurika is also feeling a little overwhelmed. Her usual direct way of talking sounds a bit weird. What do you want to know? It's about laurel tree fruit. Would you happen to know where we can find it? What would you do with it if you knew? We need it to treat someone we know. We heard we could find it here. She's looking at us with sharp eyes. Is she sizing us up? It's not just the lady. The man is also looking this way like he's very interested in this conversation. Yes, it is possible to obtain it here, but this is a bad time. Bad time? Yes. Violent monsters have been sighted in the area where the laurel tree is. It seems we can't harvest their fruit. So we can get laurel tree fruit if something's done about that monster? Her words feel like a glimmer of hope, but the woman, Cherise, cuts it off. But unfortunately, there are no adventurers here that can defeat them. She says that the levels of the adventurers here aren't that high. I ask why, and she tells me, sounding troubled as she does it. Adventurers here generally only hunt specific monsters. That is how it is here. Then how do you handle this sort of thing? The Royal Palace dispatches people to hunt monsters we can't handle. We don't know why, but they aren't hunting these monsters. Cherise is also confused by how the Royal Palace is handling this, but she's just quietly watching how they go about it, assuming they have some deep reason for doing what they're doing. It's also partially because the monsters will go away on their own eventually, so they have no reason to go out of their way to face them if they don't have the means. What kind of monsters are they? Eyewitness reports say they're minotaurs. Minotaurs, they're the sort of monsters that would appear in some dungeons' lower levels, so there's no doubt that they're strong. I've heard that they're stronger than some superior species, so they really are the sort of thing that you shouldn't mess with carelessly, or you might just end up causing more damage. But they will go away if enough time passes? Asks Sarah. That's a pertinent question. Will they move? Do minotaurs act like migratory birds in that sense? Wait, where is the laurel tree in this city anyway? I shouldn't say any more. Yes, state your business to the gatekeepers there in front. The four of us all look at each other. But Cherise says it'd be hard to get more information here. All right, we'll go over there and ask. We leave the Adventurer Guild and head to the gate. It really is big. It's so wide that 5 wagons could easily pass through it at the same time. But more important than that is the way it was constructed. I can only see the surface, but it looks like it's made of sturdy iron. And I feel magic energy too, and I feel like it wouldn't budge even if it was attacked with magic multiple times. I don't remember ever seeing you. What's your business here? A soldier guarding the gate talks to us, as we're standing here looking up at the gate like idiots. I was just surprised by how solid it looks. And do you have any business here? We asked about the laurel tree in the Adventurer Guild, and they told us to come here. The 2 gatekeepers start whispering to each other. It looks like you came from the outside, but do you have a permit? We were given this. I hand over the permit I got in Marty, and one of the soldiers runs over to the station. Not long after, he comes back with another soldier, who takes us to the station. Apparently he's their chief, but he must be pretty proactive to come out like this instead of sending someone else. This is a permit to stay in Alter. This won't get you through the gate, is the first thing he says. Does that mean the laurel trees are beyond the gate? His expression changes a little. He's easy to read. Yes, but you can't go in, and if you do it anyway, you'll be labeled as criminals. So how can we go in? You need permission from above, but we just need to get laurel tree fruit. Can you ask about that for us? It seems he's going to check that, so we tell them the name of the inn where we're staying, and leave the station. Then we check the slaver and ask about elves, and they say that while some combat slaves from the Republic of Eldo passed by here, there was no elf named Eris. Walking in Another World, Chapter 253, Life Granting. We're back in the inn, but it's not time for dinner, so we go back to the room. Hikari and Mia welcome us back, and I get the feeling that Hikari looks fidgety, but we need to talk about what happened today first. Well, there isn't much to it. It's just that we need permission to go somewhere again, and we went to the slaver. And what did you two do today? I ask, and Hikari comes close and shows me something. Is that a doll? Hikari has a very satisfied look on her face. Where did you get the doll? Big sister Mia made it for me. Looking at it more closely, I see some parts are uneven, but it's still well made. Did you really make it, Mia? Yes, I'm not bad at sewing. I ask because I'm surprised, and Mia tells me the reason, looking kind of embarrassed. She used to mend old clothes in orphanages, and would poke herself with needles from time to time and cast heal on herself. Because of this, she would try different things too, and got better as she went along. I see. Sounds like you worked hard. Even if she could heal herself, poking yourself with a needle still hurts. Hearing this paints a picture in my mind of Mia focusing all of her attention on her needlework. Despite being called a saint, she's still a hard-working girl at heart. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But why a doll? I ask, and Hikari answers, because it looked like you'd want it. She says. Mia has a kind of troubled look on her face, and the other three are looking at me like they're asking what that's about. Hikari on the other hand looks serious. I wanted it? A doll? I start to think about it, and suddenly remember. It was when I was walking around Marty with Hikari. Yes, I did show interest in dolls, but that was just for a second. Did she remember that? I take the doll from Hikari, and I'm about to place it on the floor, but that might make her sad, so I place it on the bed. The reason why I was interested in dolls is because I wanted to try a new skill I learned. I put my hand over the doll and chant, "Life granting." ... Nothing's happening, and everyone's eyes pointing at me hurt. What were you trying to do? Asks Chris, speaking for everyone else. It actually helps, because that silence was feeling kind of heavy. I learned a skill called life granting, and I figured I could use it on stuff like dolls to make them move. At least that's what I thought. I look at the doll, and it's not moving a single centimeter. Is it because my level is too low? Master, the doll moves. It's supposed to. Why did you learn that skill? Asks Ruruka, and I answer flatly. If I could make dolls with mud or something and make them move with this skill, they could do things like stand watch for us when we travel. The way I got worked up while responding to her leaves Ruruka with a dumbfounded look on her face. I thought it'd be a game changer, but, well, it obviously failed. Sora, could it be that it's not working because it doesn't have a core to serve as a magic energy source? Asks Chris, and it hits me. I did use life granting, and I did feel magic energy flying over to the doll, but it dispersed instead of settling on it. If I can get the magic energy to stay in it, it might work. Maybe it will work even without a core as the skill levels up, but not now. Then, I take out a magic stone from the item box, and hang it from the doll's neck like a necklace. It would be best to put it inside the doll, but let's test it like this. Life granting. I activate the spell again, and this time use magic energy detection to pay attention to the flow of magic energy. The magic energy envelops the doll, and is eventually sucked into the magic stone. And not long after, the doll starts moving like it's getting up. It bends its upper body, bends it, and then loses its strength. What? Asks Ruruka, but I don't get it either. But I did see that the doll moved. Could it be that the doll can't move because it's stuffed with cotton? Asks Mia. The doll really is trying to move, but whether it was because of the materials, or because my level just isn't high enough, it can't. Eventually, the doll stops moving completely, most likely because it ran out of magic energy. Also, the magic stone hanging from its neck is now transparent. It looks like the magic stone I gave to them before, to help them practice controlling their magic energy. Well, at least we managed to confirm that it does work. And I think this skill could be useful. Maybe, but I don't know if it can be used in a real battle. Chris is right, but the skill's level is too low, so we should keep testing it as it levels up. Can we change the material inside the doll? What if it had something a little harder instead of cotton? It feels like it would move if it had stalks supporting its body like bones, but maybe that would actually make it too heavy to move. If we were outside the city, I could make earth dolls with magic and test it on them, but I don't think I can do that here. Mia asks me for some materials and magic stones to put inside the doll, so I take them out of the item box and give them to her. There are a lot of skills I want to try out, but the problem is that they keep using up my MP, and their proficiency is going up pretty slowly. Walking in Another World, Chapter 254, Replication. I guess the experiment with life granting took longer than I thought, because someone comes here and says dinner is ready. We exit the room and go down the stairs, and we're surprised by the number of people here. It seems the people having dinner are just as surprised to see us as we are to see them, because when we, strangers, show up, a murmur starts spreading. Well, it's not every day we get people from the outside. If anyone tries to mess with you, tell me and I'll show them what's what. People around us shudder at the words of the manager. After that, I finish my meal without really thinking about how it tasted. There's so many people peeking over at us, that I can't relax and focus on the food. I think the same goes for everyone else. Hikari also finished her meal, and doesn't seem to care about them. But I'm sure she feels the same as me. The manager apologizes to us. But it is what it is. She says that if it goes on like this, she could take our food to our room, but we're going to wait and see how it goes for a while. When we go back to our room, Mia immediately goes to her sewing equipment to get to work on the doll. Do you have anything else to tell us about, like any new skills? Asks Ruruka, and everyone's eyes are on me, except for Mia's. I also learned the replication skill. I haven't tried it out yet, but apparently it lets me make weapons and equipment with magic energy. That sounds amazing. Sarah sounds kind of astonished, and Ruruka and Chris nod a few times in agreement. I take out a throwing knife, and chant replication while looking at it. Magic energy gathers in my right hand, and it slowly takes the form of a knife. By the time it fully turns into a knife, I feel a good amount of weight in my hand. I guess it's like this. Can I touch it? I hand the knife over to Ruruka, and then Sarah, Chris, and Hikari all have a turn checking it. Hikari, don't touch the blade. That's dangerous. I put the knife on a stand, and it vanishes after 5 minutes. Then I try casting replication again, this time using more magic energy. This one lasts about 7 minutes. I guess the amount of magic energy used affects the time it lasts. Maybe it varies depending on the size of the item too. But how good are the items? Yes, I'm curious about that too. Hikari agrees with Sarah. I can't say until I actually try them. Also, I can only make things I've touched before. Can you make stuff like knives with magic effects? Probably, but it looks like it costs me a lot of magic energy. That's the feeling I get from replicating a knife with a magic effect. I'm actually checking my MP while responding to Rurika, and I see it did go down a lot. I feel like it will be mitigated by MP consumption reduction leveling up, and my overall MP going up as the walking skill levels up. Speaking of walking, the amount of steps needed to level up has increased dramatically, and it looks like it might be hard to level up going forward. It's great that you can do that, but we need to test it thoroughly before you actually use it in battle. Yes, like checking how tough the weapons are. There's a training area in the guild here, but I don't want to test this in a place where people can see it. Then we'll do it after we leave. Rurika's words get me thinking about what we'll do next. We're still waiting for a response about the laurel tree fruit, but at least our prospects are looking brighter. Conversely, we still don't have any clues about Eris. If Dret's letter is to be believed, we might find clues in Elysia, but, well, that's all for the skills I've learned. I see. Then let's take turns taking a bath, and go to sleep. And that's what we do. We could use purification magic in place of a bath, but letting ourselves soak in warm water does wonders for our exhaustion for some reason. I even let out a sigh for no particular reason. I never used to care much for it in my old world. Is it because I value it more here? What about tomorrow? Rurika asks, when we're fully ready to go to sleep. I guess we have nothing to do until they contact us, and we can't even go around stalls like Hikari loves to do. Let's take a walk around the city. We're here anyway, so we might as well take a break, even if I don't think we'll find anything interesting. Being in a hurry won't get us anywhere in this situation. Plus, this is a new city for us. Just walking around should be fun enough. It feels different from most other places too. Then how about we split into 2 groups tomorrow? Me, Sarah, and Mia were talking about going to the Adventurer Guild to train. Chris can be Sora's chaperone. What about you, Hikari? I want to exercise with big sister Mia. Are you sure? Rurika asks, because she's surprised by her answer, and Hikari nods. Is it because there's no food stalls? Well then, you should go to sleep soon too, Mia. It looks like Hikari is fired up, so it'll probably be a tough day tomorrow. Mia just reached the stopping point with her work too, so she goes to bed. Once the light of the lamp is gone, it suddenly gets quiet. Even if I focus, all I can hear is the sound of people breathing, including ones that seem to be asleep already. I loosen up and let the bed of my body weight too, and eventually fall asleep. But parallel thinking is hard at work tonight as well, so I can raise the proficiency of other skills. Walking in Another World, Chapter 255, Altair, Part 3. See you later, Master. With a packed lunch in one hand, and Mia's hand in the other, Hikari heads off to the Adventurer Guild. Rurika and Sarah are right behind them, which leaves me and Chris. Are you sure you don't want to go too? I'm basically just going to go walk around because I want to. I know you like walking, but I'm kind of interested in seeing the city too. No problem then. We'll just chat while looking around and seeing what the city's like. In the area from the port to the castle, there are guilds and commercial facilities, but then that stops all of a sudden and it turns into the residential area. As for the castle itself, there is the big gate, but also walls like ramparts around it, so we can't see it. It feels not unlike the area around the castle in Elysia, but once I start looking at it more closely, something feels off. There are long-range weapons like ballistae on the walls, but they're pointed inward. At first I figure it's just a coincidence and there's nothing to it, but they're all pointed in the same direction. The construction of the walls themselves is a little odd too. There are ladders to climb them from this side, like those walls were built to protect the city from whatever's inside. It feels weird. Chris is tilting her head, because I think she notices it too. We keep going up and down stairs while walking around the city, and most people we see are either elderly or children. I don't see anyone my age, or a generation above. Is everyone working somewhere? It seems so. It's no wonder Chris is mumbling. We've been going around for a while now, but we haven't seen a single person working. We haven't seen any spaces where it looks like people would be farming or producing food in general either. We find a square along the way, so we stop there to eat. But other than the voices of children we hear from time to time, it's completely quiet. Should we go to the guild and meet up with the others? Yes. They are probably done training. I don't know. Hikari was pretty fired up. I think they're probably still going, I say, and Chris agrees. When we do get to the Adventurer Guild, the male receptionist comes running, looking pale. This way. He takes us to the training area, where we see the 4 girls, and 2 kids I don't recognize. They're a boy and a girl, and the boy is approaching Hikari. The atmosphere feels volatile, but what happened? We walk over to Rurika and the others to learn what happened, but before we hear anything, Hikari notices us, comes running, and hugs me. Master, help. Hikari is actually sounding troubled for once, and then I realize that the boy is really glaring at us. The hell are you? The boy yells, and the girl hits him. Apparently these 2 kids heard about us somewhere, and they started talking to us. Then there was this and that, and it ended up with him and Hikari doing a mock battle. Hikari beat him completely, and now I guess he took a liking to her. Rurika offers us a simple explanation, but does that mean that he's looking at me with jealousy because Hikari is holding on to me? I think so. I whisper to Chris, and she agrees. Hikari is my friend, so are you Hikari's master? I'll make you regret enslaving her. We're not seeing eye to eye here. He's really worked up. I challenge you, he says while furiously waving a wooden sword. Beat him up, master. Hikari looks really bothered by him. It's rare to see her like this. Sorry mister. I'm Seihana, and this is my twin brother. Can you please beat him up? No, wipe the floor with him like an old rag? The girl standing next to him walks over to me, introduces herself, and says something I really wasn't expecting. He's bothering me too, she says with a big smile on her face. I see a big vein on her forehead for just a second, but it's gone after I rub my eyes. Did I imagine that? She forces a wooden sword into my hand, and pushes me in front of the boy. I can't say I feel good about that. How do I even fight a boy around Hikari's age? I can't fight seriously. I turn around, and Hikari is nodding with her fists clenched, and the girl named Seihana is also making a fist. Nice of you to come, villain. My name is Cirque. Let's go. It's looking like I can't get away from this fight. But still, it's a kid. And a kid I don't even know. I can't risk hurting him, so I need to be mindful of that. I hope I can just fling his sword away, but alright, here I come. The fight starts before I can gather my thoughts, as he suddenly charges at me. I rush to raise my sword, and feel a heavy impact. There was some distance between us, but he cleared it in an instant. That's not a normal speed for a kid. He's not as fast as Hikari, but that's still not something a kid should be able to do. And the slash. His technique is by no means good, but each attack feels rough and heavy. Not bad. But he takes a deep breath, holds up his sword high, and charges again. At first I think about using a skill to deal with it, but instead jump back. When he swings down, he ends up swinging at the air and hitting the ground hard. Immediately after I land, I rush towards him, hit Cirque's sword before he can pull it back up, and successfully fling it away. Match. 2 voices echo at the same time. I look at Cirque, and he's glaring at me with a frustrated look on his face, but it also looks like his hands hurt. I just flung his weapon away, but that came after he received the impact of hitting it on the ground. That's my master. Hikari sounds happy and hugs me, and I see tears welling up in Cirque's eyes. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 256, Altair, Part 4. Cirque suddenly crying was surprising, but he eventually stopped, and now he's embarrassed and hiding behind Seihana. I get that you're embarrassed about crying like a baby, but don't you have something to say? Seihana is really merciless, isn't she? Sorry, that's it? Oh alright. I guess he said his name before too, but this is my brother Cirque. It's not by choice, but he is my brother. This introduction is bringing the tears back to Cirque's eyes. To put it simply, my brother is in love with Hikari. It's a problem. And now Cirque's face is bright red. I think his heart's HP is practically 0 at this point. I'm Sora, and this is Chris. I introduce Chris too, because Seihana looked at her for a moment. Mr. Sora and Miss Chris. I see you came from the outside, But what is your goal here? To check if a certain person was in the Slava, and we also need to get laurel tree fruit. But we heard in the guild that that's hard to come by now. I see. Yes, we'd like to try to get it ourselves, but we're waiting for permission. I answer Sehana's question strangely smoothly. Well, I'm sorry for the trouble my brother caused today. We will apologize later, so excuse us for now. Do you have a problem with that, Cirque? Sehana says as she turns around to face her brother hiding behind her. I'm pretty sure he's trembling. They finally leave, and we hear more about this situation from the other four. Hikari really didn't go easy on him, did she? It sounds like his overbearing attitude, plus him saying this and that about her master, me, made her mad. And then she beat him hard. I look at the other three, and they have awkward smiles on their faces. We couldn't stop her, says Rurika. So, what now? I've gotten plenty of exercise, so I'm ready to go back. I'm pretty tired. Sarah and Mia agree with Rurika. They seem tired both physically and mentally. But it sounds like they managed to just do normal mock battles before lunch, so they're happy enough with that. What about you, Sora and Chris? How was it going around the city? Mia kind of sounds like she's purposefully changing the subject because talking about that whole thing with Cirque is putting Hikari in kind of a bad mood. I guess the best I can say is that the city is quiet. We saw children and elderly people, but barely any working age people. We think they might be working somewhere, says Chris, and it gets me thinking about where everyone might have gone. Only one place springs to mind. Well, it's the only place we haven't been to yet. But it's also hard to imagine the castle on the other side of the gate being big enough to accommodate most of the city. Actually, is the laurel tree near the castle? But they said there were minotaurs hanging around nearby. What's up with that? I don't know when those people will be back, but if we wait here, we might get to see them pouring out of the gate. If they really are working on the other side of the gate, that is. Should we just go back to the inn? The four that were training are cleaned with purification magic, and we start walking again. The guild employee looks at us with an awkward look on his face as we leave, but he doesn't really say anything. When we go back to the inn, everyone hangs out as they want. That said, there's really nothing to do, so we just chat while looking at the Hikari doll and Mia doll. Mia's the only one working on something, another doll. By using life granting on dolls, I can get them to execute simple commands, but not more complex orders. And they don't move for very long. I see I can get them to move, but will they move if I tell them something like guard or keep watch? By the way, the Hikari doll is currently chasing the Mia doll. I gave orders to the Mia doll to run away from the Hikari doll, and ordered the Hikari doll to catch the Mia doll. I used the same amount of magic energy on both, so the distance between them stays the same. But I feel like the Hikari doll is trying to lure Mia doll to catch it. Do they have the ability to learn? Who knows? But I do feel like the Hikari doll is moving better than the Mia doll. I think Rurika is right. The only difference is the amount of time they've spent moving. So does their uptime matter? But that would mean the dolls are moving through some sort of will. Is that even possible? By the time we get called to have dinner, the Hikari doll still hasn't caught the Mia doll, and Hikari ends up consoling it. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 257, Altair, Part 5. The next morning, we wake up a little early to check where the adventurers are going. We should have just done this from the start. And just as I thought, they're going through the gate. But it's not just adventurers. I see men and women that are dressed like they're going to do farm work too. They're all chatting while they walk, seemingly not nervous at all, like they're just strolling. We go back to the inn, have breakfast, and get packed lunches from the manager. Not that we have anywhere to go anyway. We could go have a look at the port, but apparently nothing really happens over there unless they have goods to transport, meaning there's nothing to see there other than docked ships today. How about doing some exercise in the guild? I have to agree with Rurika's proposal, because there's nothing else. I asked the manager to inform the soldiers that we're in the Adventurer Guild, if they come here looking for us, and we're off. And when we get to the guild, we see Sehana is here. She quickly comes over when she sees us. The way she walks is kind of graceful. I'm glad I could see you again. I was wondering if I should go to the inn or if it would be a bother. Really? That's good then. But do you need anything with us? Yes. I would like to invite you to the castle, as a way to apologize for the trouble my brother caused yesterday. Castle? There's only one castle here, right? It is exactly what you think. We have been living there, and when I talked about it with my big sister, She said I should invite you over. You have a big sister? Yes, and unlike my brother, she's an adult, and someone I can look up to and respect. There's clearly a big difference in how she treats her and Cirque. He'd probably get teary-eyed again if he heard this. I see. I'm glad we can cross that gate. But are there any rules or anything? Well, for now, you should just meet my sister. Unlike me, she has a lot of power, says Sehana, and we're given permits, that we're told to hang from our necks. And that's what we do. When we reach the gate, the guards seem a little nervous, but they do check the permits. Is Sehana a young lady from an important family or something? She must be, if she lives in the castle. Rurika and Mia say to each other quietly. I'm curious about that too, but I'm more surprised about what I see on the other side of the gate. First, there's the castle with a big tree on its back. This isn't that surprising, because it was visible from the mountain and from Marty. The one path to the castle is surrounded by water, and without that path, it would look like the castle was just constructed in the middle of the lake. The water is shiny and beautiful, but I feel like the boorish walls around it kind of ruin it. The castle itself is nice and big, but I feel like it's a bit too small to accommodate all the people I saw coming here this morning. Hey, why are there walls around the castle? Well, it's not like having ramparts is a problem. It's just that their construction is strange. Yes, we'll explain it once we reach the castle. When I ask Sehana, she responds with kind of a cheeky smile that doesn't answer my question at all. We keep going through this path, and eventually we reach a part where the sun is blocked. I look up, and see we're under the tree. We're still about 50 meters from the castle, so it really makes me realize how big it is. But when I look at the others, no one except Mia is particularly surprised. When we finally reach the castle, we see an armed person that looks like a knight. His armor is a lustrous green color without a single spot of dirt. Miss Sehana, are they the ones? Yes. Is there a problem? We received the message, but yes, I'm going to take them to my sister first, so there is no problem. After they're done talking, the guard opens the door. We see an entrance hall, and another big door on the other side, as well as stairs that go up on both sides. This way first. Sehana leads us up the stairs on the right. 1 floor, 2, 3. We stop in front of a door, and Sehana knocks on it. A maid then opens it. Miss Sehana, what is it? Miss Uini is still working. Can we come in? I won't bother her. Yes, come in. We enter the room, and see a woman sitting at a desk. I can't actually see her face, because she's looking down, but I assume she's a woman because Sehana calls her big sister, and apparently it's just her and the maid in this room. I guess she reached a stopping point, because the woman raises her head and looks this way. She has a nice face, to the point that it wouldn't be surprising to learn that people ask her to pose for paintings. I gulp without thinking. But more noteworthy than that, is what looks like coral stretching out from behind her ears. Something tells me that's not an accessory. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Uini, the first princess of the Dragon Kingdom of Rufflet. She pays no attention to the fact that I look bewildered, and stands up while introducing herself. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 258, Altair, Part 6. Oh, what is it? My brain stops for a moment. Probably because of the sudden information overload. I figured she'd have to be of a certain social status to give us permits to enter the castle, but royalty. I peek over at Sehana, and our eyes meet. She has a big smile on her face, like she's happy about a well-executed prank. I'm sure they're all stunned by your beauty, big sister. That can't, Sehana says to a bewildered Uini. Uini's face turns red, and Sehana laughs at that too. I guess you could say the same for Cirque, but is there more than meets the eye with this girl? It is a pleasure to meet you. I am a merchant named Sora. How did you hear about About us? Fufu, don't be so formal. I'm royalty, but I'm not that big of a deal. You can speak normally. Very all right. I'm not used to talking like that, so that's a relief. So how did you hear about us? I don't have a high opinion of royalty, but Uini seems good. Then again, the only royalty I know about is that old man from Elysia. Does the head of the church in the Holy Kingdom of Frion count as royalty? I guess so. If royalty is someone leading a country, that one I just see is a useless man being strung along by a demon. Once I start thinking about that, I start to get the feeling that a lot of people in the top position of countries tend to be no good. Maybe it's just that the ones I've met tend to fall on the unfortunate side. Well, I heard you are looking for laurel tree fruit. But, are you sure? Are you talking about fighting minotaurs? Yes. I spoke to my father, the king, and he did give permission, but she's being evasive while looking at me and my party. I guess we don't really look that strong, do we? This is a world where skills and magic exist, so there are people whose strength can't be gauged by appearance alone. But maybe she thinks of adventurers as fierce-looking burly men. And we even have a kid among us. Although she is stronger than the average guy. I also assume she's worried about us because she's thinking about how strong minotaurs are. I've never actually fought a minotaur, but I think they appear in Majolica's dungeon from the 40th floor down. That means they have to be strong enough to match. The further down you go in that dungeon, the stronger the monsters get. Even if some are easier to defeat depending on how compatible you are with them. If we can, I'd like us to at least try to defeat them. If it's no good, we can just run away. Or is it a place that's hard to escape from once you start fighting? I don't think that will be a problem. But minotaurs are more agile than they look. It might not be so easy to escape from them. Sarah hasn't fought one either. Should we attack with long-range magic and lure out one monster at a time? We should ask what the geography is like, and how it feels like first. Maybe there are people with fighting experience here. That should be our first step in planning our strategy. Maybe we'll even find a way to get the laurel tree fruit without fighting, like using presence concealment, or having someone lure them while someone else uses the opportunity to get the fruit. I feel like using life granting to create a decoy could very well work, but I'd have to test if I can actually make something big enough to be a decoy. I ask her about it, and Yuani says she'll introduce us to someone that knows more about the place where the laurel tree is. Can you call the captain? Asks Yuani, and the maid calls someone. I guess she's not going there herself because she doesn't want to leave her master alone, and to look after us, since we are technically guests. And since we've been standing up this whole time, they take this opportunity to prompt us to sit down, and that's what we do. We are brought tea, and Yuani asks about things outside the city, until one man walks in. I think it's a man, but that mask covering half the face and the armor make it difficult to be sure. Did you call Princess Yuani? Yes. I'm sorry to bother you while you work. I would like you to tell them about the floor where the laurel tree. No, about the dungeon. Are you sure? I received permission from the king. Very well. My name is Alfred. I will tell you about the dungeon in the castle. I'm surprised to hear there's a dungeon here in the first place, but the way they use it surprises me even more. All this time I've been wondering how they produce food on this cramped island, and the answer is that they do it in the dungeon. Each floor is a field floor with a day and night cycle, so that's what they use. They use the first and second floors for farming and livestock. This is where the general population works, so there are typically no monsters there. I say typically, because although it's very rare, it does happen. The third floor is where they collect minerals, but they don't have a lot of people that specialize in that sort of thing, so it's mostly left alone. Like the 2 floors before it, monsters rarely appear there. Monsters whose meat is edible appear in the 4th and 5th floors, mostly wolves, bloody snakes, and orcs. The 6th floor has a lake, and although lizardmen live there, it's mostly peaceful. We're not told a lot about this one. The 7th floor is where the laurel tree are, and also where medicinal herbs can be picked. Monsters appear from time to time, and unlucky for us, we happened to come here at one of those times. And even though minotaurs don't appear on that floor, they've been hanging around there. There are more floors, but they're not relevant now, so that's all we're told. Did monsters escape the dungeon here too? No, mostly due to the power of the Dragon King, but I asked that because I thought back to Majolica's dungeon, but Alfred's answer feels unclear. The defensive measures like the walls around the castle lead me to believe something might have happened before. That is all from me. Any questions? After asking for some more details, we thank Alfred, and start discussing what to do. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 259, Altair's Dungeon, Part 1. After talking it over, we decide to try going to the dungeon. Just as we thought, monsters generally can't go through staircases and hop onto different floors. And since we can use our cards to register in the floors we have been to and move there automatically later, we are going there mostly just to check it out this time. Unlike Majolica's dungeon, people can freely move between floors by using the pillars that are on landing areas of staircases that connect floors. But there aren't any items that can be used in case of an emergency, like return stones, so you always have to use this landing area to go back. Incidentally, this dungeon goes down, so technically we should describe it in terms of basement floors. I really didn't think we'd be going to another dungeon. Me neither, but this is a more controlled dungeon. At least that's what it sounds like. Can they pick the monsters that appear? Asks Ruruka, because it feels like only monsters that are convenient for people here can appear. And apparently there aren't any superior species from the 1st to the 6th floor. Does that mean that the minotaurs that appeared on the 7th floor are irregulars? Oh, Cirque, is something the matter? After we leave the room and go down the stairs, we see Cirque. He shakes when Yuini talks to him, and his suspicious behavior makes Sehana sigh. But before Sehana can speak, Cirque talks like he's onto something. I'm worried so. Are you alright? I'm sure that's directed at Hikari. Be careful out there, he says before running off somewhere. He really can't just be honest, can he? I'm a little worried about him, so I'm going after him, Sehana says before bowing and walking after her brother. Despite everything she says, she does worry about him. Hikari is looking in the direction where they went, but stops when Yuini starts walking. Are you worried too, Hikari? Not really. She's not so honest either. Or maybe she really doesn't think it's a big deal. It can be hard to read Hikari's unemotional face. We eventually reach the 1st floor, and stand in front of the big door on the other side of the entrance door. Once we enter, we see a large empty throne, and when we go around it, we see there's a door behind the throne. The dungeon is beyond this door. Once the door is opened, we see a pillar like in Majolika's dungeon, and a strong-looking door. We hand our cards to the soldiers guarding it, and they're registered. I can't go any further, but I think someone should accompany you. Is anyone free? Maybe Deutina can go? Why yes. Alfred looks around, and names one person. Deutina responds, sounding nervous, and introduces herself with a stiff expression. My name is Deutina. Nice to meet you. She seems really nervous. Is it because a princess is here? Thank you for your help. Yuini's words put an incredibly bright expression on Deutina's face. The princess and Alfred leave, leaving us with Deutina, who is clearly still nervous. Well then, let's go. A heavy sound echoes as the door opens and reveals a world full of nature. It's not that surprising, because we've all experienced a dungeon before, but it does feel strange to see buildings in a dungeon. Do people live here? N number. Well, yes, not everyone, but we take turns staying here. Ms. Deutina. Are you a soldier? Please don't call me Miss. I am a soldier at the service of the castle. I haven't been here for long, but I come to the dungeon a lot, so ask me any questions you have. Apparently most people working in the castle are descendants who have dragon blood in their veins. Deutina is one of them. Actually, people with dragon blood generally lead long lives, and races with long lifespans tend to have a distorted sense of time, meaning Deutina is probably a veteran from the point of view of a human. It makes sense. People from outside are technically guests of the royal family, and they can't have a complete newbie leading them around. The first 2 floors, as they explained to us before, are full of people farming and taking care of livestock. Everyone looks at us with surprise when they see us, but still greet us with smiles. However, in most cases, that soon goes away when their eyes turn to Hikari and Mia. The number of people drastically goes down when we reach the 3rd floor. There are only a few men around. Not a lot of people work here, because it's an area generally not related to people's livelihood. But sometimes people dig up precious ore, so there are regular investigations. Deutina says that they generally get their ore from outside, but they keep investigating because sometimes they find mithril. Also, this dungeon's floors change along with their geography if people don't visit for a long time, so they need to send people to stay here and work from time to time to prevent that from happening. So this dungeon doesn't change as long as there are people here? Why yes. In particular, this space will act as a defensive point if monsters ever go berserk, so we are careful not to let it change. Is that why I saw something that looked like a fortress when we came down from the 2nd floor? I ask her, and she says it's just to buy time to evacuate the 1st and 2nd floors. Monsters appear from the next floor onward. I think it will be fine, but be careful, says Deutina, as she stops before the stairs to the 4th floor and looks at us in turn. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 260, Altair's Dungeon, Part 2. We register in the landing area, and step into the 4th floor. The field on the 4th floor is like a grassy field, and the 5th is like a forest. The 5th floor has more monsters, and monsters like orcs only appear there. Apparently the 4th floor is used as a training area for adventurers not used to fighting monsters. It's a strange place, whispers Chris as she hears all that, and Sarah and Rurika nod. Why do you think so? I think dungeons are strange in general, so I thought that was a given. Well, how the dungeon environment has become a convenient thing for people here. Now that she mentions it, it does feel like this place is pretty easy on people. Between the environment that's suitable for farming, and the edible monsters, I feel like the more I think about it, the more I feel like this dungeon contains things people need. We keep walking while I think that, and a few wolves appear. They've noticed us too, and are moving in. Wolves, stand back. I step forward in front of Deutina and hold up my sword. But something runs by me like a gust of wind. Hikari gets close to the wolves in an instant, and mows them down in one strike. This isn't all that surprising to us, because we know how strong she is, but Deutina is shocked. She's strong, she struggles to say, while standing in front of the corpses of the wolves. I just collect the corpses and prompt her to keep going. Unlike labyrinth-style dungeons, the staircases are always in the same places, so we won't get lost. And there are even pillars that serve as marks in every important spot, just in case someone happens to get lost. These pillars have signs that say things like the direction where the staircase is. I use map just to check our surroundings, and see groups of people moving around. How about we have lunch? The dungeon gets wider on the 5th floor, so it should take a while for us to get through it. We have packed lunches, so we could eat here. But you didn't bring anything, did you, Deutina? When we reach the landing area leading to the 5th floor, Deutina recommends that we have lunch. That's a fair point. Floors do get bigger the further down we go. Should we go back to the city and eat there? We've been walking this whole time, so we should probably take a break. Actually, it's more like we were so curious about this place that we kept walking and forgot to rest. I ask the others if they're fine with resting now, and I'm relieved when they say yes. And after we talk about it, Deutina apologizes. And so, we go back to the surface to eat, and go to something like a dining hall that Deutina and her colleagues use. We can have a nice quiet lunch here, because it's past the time when people usually have lunch, meaning there are few people around. We attract a lot of attention here, probably mostly due to curiosity. Deutina, I know the 5th floor is bigger than the 4th, but if we go there now, can we make it to the 6th floor before dark? It might be a little hard. The 5th floor really is big. Even if we walk straight forward, we are going to pass through a forest, where it's hard to walk, and each monster we come across just means more time. So do the people going there to hunt hang around near the staircase, or do they camp there? Asks Rurika. Yes, it sounds like it'd be hard to explore that floor and come back on the same day. A lot of people stay there. There are a few bases, so they hunt in shifts. We participate from time to time to train too. If they have bases, is that where they sleep? It sounds dangerous, but if they have monster repellent and build simple fortifications, maybe that's not the case. By the way, what do we do with the wolves we just hunted? You can sell them in the guild. Really? If that's not a problem, I'll just leave them there. I was thinking maybe they'd demand we hand them over because we're outsiders or something, but I guess not. So we'd have to stay the night there. Should we go back to the inn then? Not that I have a problem camping there, because all my stuff is in the item box. I think that's a good idea. I can tell from how you handled the wolves that you're strong. But you should prepare. Deutina doesn't know that, so it makes sense for her to say we should stop for now. I can feel everyone's eyes on me. It looks like I'm the one who gets to have the final say. I guess it's true that I'm the one who wants laurel tree fruit the most. Let's prepare and continue tomorrow. And if possible, I'd like to learn more about the 6th and 7th floors. Is that all right? Deutina puffs out her chest, and says leave it to me. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 261, Altair's Dungeon, Part 3. The next day we head to the dungeon with adventurers, because last night when we were eating in the inn, they told us they saw us in the dungeon, and we hit it off. There's also the fact that everyone got excited talking while they asked us all sorts of questions about the world outside of this city, and other countries. Most people here were born in Altair, so a lot of them are interested in what it's like outside. Some even travel just to see the outside world. However, while leaving is easy, coming back is apparently tricky. When people leave, they have to be prepared for the possibility of never coming back. That's why I'm a little worried. Did hearing about that make you want to leave Altair? I ask the adventurers from the inn, and they say number. It's an uneventful life, with every day feeling like the last, but they don't want to leave so badly that they're willing to destroy it. Life here isn't actually all that different than in a small town or village. The difference is that they have a security net if something happens to them. If they get sick or hurt and can't work, they'll be graciously taken care of. Normal adventurers who get hurt and can't work, lose their source of income, and worst case scenario, become debt slaves. I guess hearing this from people who are former slaves plays a role too, but I feel like these people aren't leaving this place unless they really have to. I honestly understand that sentiment. Yes, so do I, say Rurika and Chris. If that thing didn't happen, we would probably be living in peace in our town right now. The world is full of danger, and not many people willingly walk towards danger like Rurika and Chris. Of course, some people just want to be adventurers or something else, but I think most people that leave their towns or villages do so out of necessity. That's why they say they would still be living in their town, if they didn't get dragged into that war and Sarah and Eris didn't go missing. I guess that just shows how special their bond is. Yes, I feel the same way. If I didn't become a saint, I'm sure I would be living with someone in my village. I feel like Mia whispered that without thinking, but everyone's eyes are on her. Mia then thinks back to what she said, and faces down as her face turns red. Why does she keep peeking at me? I tilt my head in confusion, and hear Sarah sigh. Are you coming with us again, Deutena? As we wait for our turn, Deutena arrives, carrying baggage. Yes, Captain's orders. Thank you for having me. But are you really going in that lightly equipped? She asks, because we're all just carrying our weapons and pouches. From an outsider's perspective, it looks like we're not at all ready to camp. I can use storage magic. Didn't you see me collecting the wolves with it yesterday? She didn't ask, so I didn't explain. But it feels like she just realized it. Do you want me to carry that? She's carrying a pretty big backpack. It's probably not going to be a problem on a grassy field, but a forest is a different story. Actually, it'd probably still be fine if she was just walking, but it would get in the way during a fight. She ponders it for a bit, but eventually agrees. I don't know what that forest is like, but I'm sure she reached the same conclusion that it'll be easier to walk without it. Are you ready to go? I put my hand on the pillar, and it asks where I want to go. I can pick from the 2nd to the 5th floors. Does it warp people to the entrance of each floor? I pick the 5th, feel like I'm floating for a second, and then the scenery in front of me changes. Looking around, I can see most of the adventurers are checking their stuff, including some familiar faces. I raise my hand and wave, and they do the same. They're too far away for us to walk to each other and say hello, so I just start walking towards the stairs. Hold on. Going in first could be, kind of dangerous. Apparently monsters don't go up the stairs, but they do gather near the entrance from time to time. Is that why no one's going in? I try using presence detection, but I can't detect things on the 5th floor from here. That said, this is just a waste of time. I use a barrier spell on me and Sarah, and step into the next field. And once I step in it, map shows me monsters. There are multiple monsters nearby. Do you want to hunt them before advancing? I ask, and get a positive response from behind me. Hikari took care of all the wolves yesterday, so let us handle this. We go to the forest with Rurika in front, followed by me and Sarah. Deutena runs forward, seemingly flustered, but by the time she catches up, the battle is already starting. It looks like the monsters sensed our presence, and are running this way. There are 5 orcs. Rurika quickly takes one down as soon as we make contact, leaving 4. I guess we're all fighting one each. I block an attack, and get a feel for it. I don't know if it's just because my level is higher, but compared to the first time I fought orcs, there's barely any impact when I block its sword. I push its sword away, and when I cut at the orc without infusing my sword with magic energy, it easily rips through its flesh and bone. I look around, and see all the other orcs are down. You're all pretty strong too. I'm not too surprised, but Deutena sure is. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 262, Altair's Dungeon, Part 4. The shortest path to the staircase is straightforward, but it's hard to advance through the forest without getting lost. At least it should be. By using map, I completely invalidate that idea. Well, even if I try to sound cool by saying that, the reality is that I'm just trying to save some time. And so, we're walking with me and Hikari in front. This is a forest, but the trees aren't all that clustered together. In fact, I don't know if it's because a lot of people pass through here or what, but I noticed that a lot of branches are bent at the tip. Of course, trees grow with time, so sometimes we have to brush aside branches that are in the way too. There aren't a lot of monsters. Yes, there aren't any nearby, I say, and Hikari agrees. We're only talking about what's in our way. If we went off the path we'd probably find monsters, but there's really no need to go out of our way to get close to them. I'm more interested in the mushrooms and fruit I can see here, and though when I use appraisal, I get the feeling that Hikari turns her eyes their way too from time to time. If they aren't poisonous, mushrooms are pretty nice to have because we can roast them or use them for soup stock. If they aren't poisonous, I feel like we've been walking for 2 hours, so we take a break. We haven't fought any monsters, aside from the orcs that were near the entrance. We are very lucky to have avoided monsters so far, says Deutina. Can we collect food like mushrooms? I ask, and she says some people come here to collect them too. But only people that can afford to do that. You never know when monsters might appear here, so people tend to be more concerned about that. People that can afford to do that, like people with skills similar to presence detection. I guess when most people are walking and watching out for monsters, they can't also be on the lookout for other things. And depending on the place, there are roots and branches in the way too. Even just walking around in a place with bad visibility is unthinkable. How do hunters hunt monsters here? It depends on the person. Some just walk around looking for monsters, and others set up traps. But they're not in the same places. Deutina sounds a lot more relaxed now compared to when we first met, because we've been talking this whole time. I guess it'd be dangerous for someone who's clueless to walk into an area where there are traps. But is this path all right? Yes, people mostly set up traps near the fortifications, and monsters tend to be somewhat territorial, so it's rare to encounter orcs and blood snakes at the same time. For example, rare means it can happen, right? Ruriku asks as she takes a sip of fruit water. Yes, it's rare. But sometimes monsters wander into places where they shouldn't be. But people that hunt monsters here take turns hunting in different areas, so they have experience fighting different kinds of monsters, and are able to deal with them. Does that go for you and your colleagues too, Deutina? Of course, we also practice fighting monsters. Sometimes we even practice with adventurers so we're able to coordinate with them. Deutina answers Sarah's question, and starts complaining about all the problems that come with practicing with adventurers. There really is a gap between adventurers and soldiers. We should keep going. We might be running into monsters soon, so be ready, I say, and everyone except Deutina nods. Ruriku and Hikari look like they've already noticed them. And after we walk for a bit, we come across blood snakes. Hikari's eyes are shining, but let's calm down. Alright, there are 2 of them. What do we do? Asks Ruriku. She means whether we should fight them together or alone. They're still a little far, and I don't think they've noticed us yet. Blood snakes. Deutina grimaces when she looks at them. Does she have a problem with them? I guess the safest option would be to keep them in check with magic, and keep them busy while someone attacks them from behind, right? That's probably right. Although Sarah and Hikari could easily take them down if they went at it alone. Yes, that might be the safest option. Then I'll draw their attention with Sarah, and since Hikari and Ruriku are fast, you two can attack. How's that? Can I be the one that acts as bait? As we discuss our strategy, Chris suddenly volunteers for that role. Well, I want to test it, she says while touching her bracelet. Yes, we tested it a bit during mock battles, but not in actual combat. Then I'll draw their attention with Chris. The shield's area of effect is small, so try not to go too far from me. Can you set up the shield in front of me? If it goes wrong and a blood snake manages to tackle one of us, it's better if it's me. I should be able to take it and protect Chris. All right, let's go with that. I'm surprised to hear that Ruriku agrees, but just remember, if Chris gets hurt, I won't forgive you, she whispers as she passes by me, before she disappears into the forest with Hikari. Mia, can you fire a holy arrow when I give the signal? Mia nods, and I give the signal after using map to see if Hikari and Rurika are in place. The holy arrow hits one of them, but Mia was probably holding back, because all it does is blow the monster back a little. Let's go. I jump out from behind a tree and show myself to the blood snakes. They immediately notice us, and raise their voices in anger over being attacked, before coming at us very fast. It makes me worried that the shield won't be able to kill their momentum, but it should have the same effect as the barrier from space-time magic, so I assume it will be fine. Of course, I also need to be ready in case it doesn't go as expected. When a blood snake gets close enough, it opens its mouth widely and moves in to bite me, but it hits a wall just before it can touch me. The other blood snake then tries to attack from a blind spot, but it's also stopped, and the impact makes it lean back. If I could read their minds, I'm sure I'd find that they're wondering why this is happening. I can even see surprise on their faces, but those expressions are gone the very next moment. Hikari and Ruriko approach from behind while concealing their presences, and slice the blood snake's necks with one slash. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 263, Altair's Dungeon, Part 5. Did it work? I turn around and ask, and Chris nods. Yes. I didn't even feel an impact or anything. I see. What about the magic energy? All the magic energy I infused in the bracelet beforehand is gone, and I feel like the shield is still active. I look for magic energy with magic energy detection, and see there really is an invisible shield. I reach out towards it, and I can feel something like a layer of magic energy. When I touch the point where it's strongest, probably where the shield begins, my hand goes through it with no problem. I still don't know how it determines what it should block and what it should ignore. I thought about activation conditions when I was infusing the effect, but it's still a mystery how it actually works. Not that there's much point in thinking about it. Master, store them. I stopped because I started thinking, and Hikari prompts me to put away the blood snakes in the item box. When are we going to drain their blood? Are you looking forward to eating blood snake? I guess we haven't had it in a while. How about before we go to bed? Yes. I think she paused before answering because she actually wants to eat some now, but we can't just stop dead in our tracks and start draining their blood here. I'm sure she understands that. We continue moving, stop to have lunch, and when we start moving again, we encounter orcs for the second time. I guess everyone here really has been leveling up, because we take them down pretty easily. I cast appraisal on everyone, and see that aside from Sarah and Hikari, everyone's level has almost doubled since before we entered Majolika's dungeon for the first time. How would I feel if I faced Ignis now? That thought suddenly crosses my mind, but actually, I still don't think I'd be a match for him. The pressure I felt from Ignis' power back then was so intense, that I feel like it's been carved into my heart. And it's not just about power, I can even cook too. We had packed lunches, but I need to prepare dinner. Dutina tells me to give her stuff back to her, but then I see her taking out preserved food. I tell her I'm cooking, and to put that away. She's surprised when I start cooking, and even more surprised when she starts eating. There's no reason why we shouldn't have something good, I guess, but I would understand if we were in a base. But cooking in the middle of nowhere like this is unbelievable. There's no doubt that it would take too much time and effort to be able to cook a proper meal. They'd have to carry around ingredients and equipment, so it's not an option. If I didn't have an item box, that would be the first thing I would cut. Actually, I don't get tired even if I carry a lot of stuff, so maybe that would stay the same. Hikari and Dutino ask for seconds, and when we're done eating, we start getting ready to camp. This season isn't that cold, so we can just lay down sheets and sleep in our robes. I could make a house, but I'm refraining from doing that because Dutina is here. A magic barrier provides some protection, but it will break if something manages to get through it. The real reason why I'm using it in the first place is that I want to spend MP increasing the proficiency of space-time magic. It's inefficient as far as how much MP it uses, but it was useful when I fought the bandits, and there's no doubt that its performance is exceptional. As for who's keeping watch, we split into 3 groups and take turns. I'm on the last shift with Mia and Dutina. Is that so I can make breakfast? Before I go to sleep, I blow the smell up into the air with magic, and hand an item back to Sarah. If the blood snakes were done being drained I would have put them away, but since they're not, I ask Sarah to do it later. I sleep well, and only wake up when it's my turn to keep watch. When I wake up, I take the item bag with the blood snakes from Hikari and move them to the item box, but there are a few kilograms that have already been taken apart too. I look at Hikari, and she awkwardly looks away. So she was doing that when she was supposed to be keeping watch. What am I gonna do with you? I say while patting her head and messing up her hair, and she says she's sorry. Now it's time for the three of us to keep watch. I see reactions a little far away on map, but they're not moving. The monsters are resting too. What happened? Why did Hikari apologize? She was taking the monsters apart while keeping watch. I say to Mia, and Deutena tilts her head. She couldn't help herself. That's just how much she's looking forward to it. Well, blood snake meat is pretty tasty. I'll use some of it for breakfast. I can't wait. Even after Mia explains to her what happened, it doesn't look like Deutena fully understands it. It's probably because from her point of view, it's not that rare of an ingredient. Eventually the sun begins to rise, and I get busy making breakfast. The other four are drawn in by the smell, and wake up. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 264, Altair, Part 7. We fight monsters a few more times along the way, and eventually reach the staircase to the 6th floor during the night. 2 days after we started exploring the 5th floor. The gate to the city is closed at this hour, says Deutena, but should we keep going? We could go to a lodging house where soldiers stay, if you want. Even though we're outsiders, I think it will be fine if I explain why, but she doesn't sound too confident. If that doesn't work out, I guess we can just go back to the dungeon and camp. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Deutena takes the lead and we head to that lodging house, but we find Uini along the way. We're in the castle, but is it a good idea for her to be walking around alone at night? Are you on your way back? Why yes, princess. And since the gate is closed at this time, I am going to ask if they can stay in the lodging house. I can tell Deutena is nervous. I guess it's normal when you speak to a princess. Yes, it's probably too late to leave. Then I will arrange for a room, and you can stay there. Are you sure? Yes. What about food? I will take care of that as well. But is that really all right? Letting outsiders stay so easily? Is she unconcerned? Is she just naive? Her proposal leaves me a little taken aback. It's fine. You have my father's, the king's permission. Follow me. Deutena has some reservations, so we part ways here. Uini goes up the stairs with light steps, and leads us to a room with a guest room. Normally I would take you to the dining hall to have a meal there, but today this room will have to do. Is that all right? Sure, no problem at all. She said something to a maid on the way, so I assume everything's taken care of. We have some time until the food is ready, so can you tell me about things like the dungeon in the meantime? But I also called Cirque and Seihana, so can you wait until they get here? Her voice sounds kind of bright. Eventually, Cirque gets here, looking a little nervous, along with Seihana, who looks like she thinks that's funny. Are you staying here tonight? Yes, I guess that's how it ended up being. Then you can tell us all sorts of things. Seihana sounds even more excited than Uini. Cirque looks kind of reserved, but nods. They were born here and have never left this place, so they wanted to hear about the outside world. And so, we talk about what we've been doing, while we wait for our food. First, Rurika talks about funny and interesting things she's seen while traveling. Chris gives her exasperated looks from time to time, because apparently she's exaggerating a bit. Still, they listen intently, and even Sarah looks interested. Rurika eventually finishes what she was saying, and it happens just as we're brought our meals. Uini and the others are brought food too, so I guess they're also eating here. Is it really alright to be eating with us? Shouldn't she be eating with the king? I think she understands that's what I'm implying, but she says it's fine. Bon appetit. I'm surprised for a second when Uini says that, but I quickly bounce back and start eating. They used ingredients we're used to, like orc meat, so it tastes the same as always. Or not. Master's is better, whispers Hikari, like she blurted it out without thinking. Really? Yes. Uini is surprised to hear that, and Hikari nods nonchalantly. Cirque is looking at me like he's shocked. I smile awkwardly, and explain. It's just an issue of flavoring. We give our bodies a good deal of exercise, so I usually try to make things have a stronger flavor to get good salt intake. That's why it feels a little bland for us. That's probably why it feels like something's missing. And there's also the fact that the cooking skill corrects things. I can think of another reason. My knowledge of cooking from my old world. Even my vague memories are enough to make things that feel exotic here. It's not just Hikari that likes them either. I see. I would definitely like to try it, says Yuini, and Seihana nods. Cirque looks like he has mixed feelings. He probably has his own ideas when he sees Hikari talk about me. But I like this softer taste, says Mia while drinking the soup. I guess this is actually better if we're talking about which is healthier. Staying healthy is a bigger concern when it comes to royalty too, so the cook probably put his menu together through trial and error with that idea in mind. I just care about what tastes good, and make things the way I want, so I feel like that difference plays a big role. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World. Chapter 265, Altair, Part 8. After we're done eating, we keep talking while having tea. So you became Hikari's guardian? Nice, says Cirque, believing my fabricated story about Hikari being a survivor of a certain village, and me taking her in when I was traveling as a merchant. I obviously can't tell them she used to be a spy. That would bring a whole load of questions about me too. And you met Mia and Sarah in the Holy Kingdom? Yes, I bought Sarah in the Slava there. As for Mia, there was a lot of confusion during the Advent Festival, and we started working together then. Speaking of the Advent Festival, I heard the saint was killed there. Is that true? Asks Seihana, and I nod with a solemn expression. I see my partners trying not to laugh at that. What's with that? And since you heard what happened with them, you contacted Rurika and Chris to meet up in Majolica? Yuini says, before whispering that fate really is a strange thing. By the way, I also told them that I met Rurika and Chris not as an adventurer, but as a merchant they helped along the way. And I bought Sarah after I found her at the Slava to repay my debt to them. Why did you go to the dungeon in Majolica? Weren't you trying to find Eris as soon as possible? Asks Seihana, feeling like at any moment she's going to lean forward out of excitement. Part of it was that the travel expenses weren't cheap, but I can use alchemy too. So I wanted to get precious materials and magic stones in the dungeon, so I asked them to explore and gather them with me. We also had to earn money to free me. Adds Sarah. I'm embellishing the story a lot, and saying things I'm just coming up with now, so it helps that they're keeping up. And the ones that can't because they're not good liars don't say anything, and just listen. And then, that acquaintance, Layla. You came here after Laurel Tree Fruit to save the friend of the daughter of the feudal lord of Majolica, right? Yes. We've almost reached the 7th floor, so now it's only a matter of whether we can get it. Yuini responds with I hope you do. But Minotaurs. Alfred once talked about having trouble defeating one. The captain that talked to us about the dungeon? Alfred's level was higher than Sarah's. By the way, when was that? About 30 years ago, I think. Everyone except Hikari looks surprised. What is the matter? Yuini asks while tilting her head. It's probably the time frame that's surprising them. Big sister. I see. Being surrounded by people who are also like this makes it easy to forget. We who have inherited dragon blood live long lives, like elves. Incidentally, I'm 125 years old. She says something so shocking so nonchalantly. Deutena talked about having a long lifespan too, but Yuini's appearance clearly makes her look around the same age as Rurika. But the 30-year difference also means I have to take into consideration that Alfred's level wasn't the same then. Not that level necessarily equals strength. But in that case, couldn't the captain take care of those minotaurs? Apparently there are more than one out there, and Alfred can't move around too freely right now. I believe my father will give the order if there are no alternatives, but we spoke just the other day, and he said it was not the time for that. I don't understand what he means. It feels like the king is letting them be because he has something in mind. Is he comparing the power of the Minotaurs to his subordinates like Alfred, and trying to make sure no one's hurt? Am I overthinking it? Maybe it would be best to gauge how strong Alfred is with a match between us. But that'd be hard too. We keep chatting, and I ask Yuini and the others what they usually do. Cirque responds with a lot of energy, saying he trains in the dungeon, and Yuini, but work a little harder on your studies too, alright? Responds with this. He looks a little sad, so Yuini adds, but Cirque is stronger than me. But then Seihana responds, that's because you're better with magic. Cirque cheered up, and was immediately shot back down. Does that mean Yuani is good with magic, or Cirque is just bad at it? But this girl really is merciless with Cirque. I guess that's normal with twins. We have fun talking, and it gets pretty late. If we were staying at the inn, we'd probably be sleeping by now. What are your plans tomorrow? We need to consider Deutana too, but we're planning to rest tomorrow and keep going the day after tomorrow. Then can I leave these two with you for half the day tomorrow? I think Cirque in particular really wants to train with his sword. I look at Cirque, and he looks away. I have my own thoughts on it, but it might be nice to do some mock battles. I accept, and we're told that since the Royal Guards will be training tomorrow, it might be nice to join them. Will Alfred be the two? This might turn out to be a good excuse. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 266, Altair, Part 9. After we wake up, we're taken to a square where the Royal Guards train. I see people already equipped and ready to go, and when we join them, everyone's eyes turn our way. Some people among them are wearing more gaudy outfits. They're talking to Alfred, but are they visitors or something? Training starts with warm-up exercises, and then practicing using different weapons. They all seem to have a main weapon, but they use different weapons depending on the monsters they're fighting. Isn't that going to lead to a jack of all trades, master of none situation? Well, all of them have dragon blood, so their long lifespans mean they can afford to do this. Their lifespans are more than twice as long as humans, so I guess this kind of training suits them. Swords, spears, and they even use bows. Incidentally, I take this opportunity to use a bow for the first time, and my aim is better than average. I'm sure that's the throw, shooting skill at work. Hikari and Chris are relatively good at it too, and surprisingly, Sarah does the worst. After doing some basic training, we take a break, and then split up into groups to do mock battles. Hikari, I challenge you. I turn around and see Cirque. It hasn't been that long, but it looks like he forgot what happened before. He doesn't stand a chance, but it's also nice that he doesn't give up. When he starts to raise his sword, that reminds me of when I challenged Ruriko again and again, and she beat me again and again. Hikari hesitates for a second, but quickly goes back to her usual unemotional expression, and raises her short wooden sword. Cirque gets ready too, and after Alfred comes forward to be a referee, the mock battle begins. I don't know if it's because Cirque is fighting, or because Alfred is refereeing, but other people who are fighting stop and watch them instead. This isn't like when Cirque was fighting me. Cirque's sword doesn't waver one bit as he beautifully handles it to cut at Hikari. What's going on? Surprised? He was all shaky when he fought you. Yes, and it was like he was feeling pressured. Say Rurika and Sarah. I'm sure he was jealous of you, says Mia, and I notice she's breathing a little heavily. This kind of training must be tough for her. Chris also has beads of sweat on her forehead. In the meantime, those two are having a nice match. From what I heard, Hikari crushed him when they fought in the guild, but this time Cirque is strengthening his defense, and evading fatal attacks. My brother has been getting a lot of advice from the Royal Guard in these last few days, and training with them very seriously. And he's been sneaking into the dungeon to hunt monsters, says Sehana, who is standing here all of a sudden. I'm a bit surprised, and when I peek at her face in profile, I see she's watching Cirque fight with a serious expression. It'd be nice if she could be like that with him all the time, but I guess there's something between siblings that prevents them from being honest like that. I'm an only child, so I wouldn't know. Eventually, the mock battle that goes on for longer than most ends when Hikari catches an opening and wins. I guess it all comes down to experience. Hikari managed to take advantage of a break in his concentration. Rurika is right. The moment he took a big breath to compose his breathing after all those intense movements, Hikari shifted into a higher gear and he couldn't keep up with her. But I feel like rather than tactics, this match was decided by a difference in their stamina. Normally you wouldn't do a mock fight against the same person for 20 minutes anyway. From that point of view, I think Cirque put up a good fight. If it was me when I first started. No, let's not go there. It's just going to make me sad. I guess it's impossible to really grow in just a few days. That's not true. I think that was a good effort. And look at his face, he seems satisfied too. Sehana sighs, and I tell her to get a better look at Cirque, who is getting up from the ground. He looks frustrated, but also satisfied, like he managed to achieve something. I think the referee, Alfred, is complimenting him too, and a big smile forms on his face. It actually feels kind of new, because he's had a stuffy look on his face ever since I met him. Sehana lets out a smile too, but it quickly disappears. Well, my brother did make a good effort this time. As his sister, I would be happy if he were allowed to go on a date with Hikari as a reward. That's up to Hikari. But I don't know what kind of date she has in mind, but I feel like that would be hard to do here in Altair. It'd be different if there were at least stalls. Maybe my mind just jumps to that because when I go anywhere with Hikari, there's a high probability that we're going to end up in front of food stalls. If he could at least cook. Sehana looks at me like she's taken aback by what I said. I almost laugh a little, because I feel like this is the first time I'm seeing an honest expression from her. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 267, Altair's Dungeon, Part 6. Afterwards, I ask Alfred for a match, but it's politely declined, and fight someone else. And just like that, it's over. Challenging the captain. You must have a death wish, Sora. That's the first thing that comes out of Dutina's mouth, after we meet again to continue advancing through the dungeon. I really just wanted to have a light spar to see if I can fight a Minotaur, but I guess I'll think about it after I check their levels. By the way, yesterday in that training area, there was one person whose level I couldn't see with appraisal, but that person suddenly disappeared before I knew it. The 6th floor is divided into an area with a grassy field and an area with a lake. There are lizardmen in the lake, but they probably won't attack with me here. She says lizardmen generally don't attack people accompanied by someone with dragon blood. I ask why those monsters are even there in the first place, and she says they were placed there to stop intruders from entering the 7th floor. Because you don't trust humans? I think that, but there's no way I'll actually ask. Let's go. I feel like Dutina is fired up today. The 6th floor really is divided into 2 areas, but it's mostly water. I check map, and see reactions from monsters. Some are pretty close, but I can't see them when I look around. Are they in the water? I carefully look at the surface of the water, and see what looks like small ripples from time to time. We're walking in a tight formation with Dutina in front, but it kind of feels like we're hiking. The others are also cautiously looking around, but just as Dutina said, the lizardmen follow us, but always keep a certain distance and never come any closer than that. And if we stop, they stop too. I feel like we're being watched. Also, now that they know we're aware of their presence, they sometimes poke their heads from the water, and don't try to hide that they're watching us even when our eyes meet. It's like even though they're not going to touch us, they're saying hey, we're watching you. That doesn't change at night, so we still need to take turns keeping watch when we sleep. They're still monsters, so we need to forget about any preconceived notions and be careful anyway. They have never attacked, but they still might attack this time. Dutina doesn't really react to what we're doing, and just keeps watch with us. Not to mention that I need to work to repay you for the delicious food you prepare. I guess my food really is a delicacy, because lately when it's almost time to eat, Dutina starts fidgeting. She's gotten pretty friendly with Hikari over food too, and she asks her a lot of questions when we take breaks. She doesn't really ask about how to cook, but more about what kind of food Hikari has eaten so far. She even made a food request. Hearing about it from Hikari made her really want to try it. It really makes an impression on me how moved she looks when she finally tries it. Once we get past this, we will be done with the 6th floor. There's a small island in front of us, and apparently the staircase is beyond it. I do see what looks like a cave. We can walk to the island through a bridge of planks, but there are reactions of lizardmen all around us. And since they're underwater, we can't see them. I'm worried about what would happen if they all attacked at once, but Dutina just keeps walking. I rush to follow her and step firmly on the bridge, but it's sturdy and doesn't budge. The lake is so clear that I can see the bottom. It actually doesn't seem that deep, and the water around the bridge probably wouldn't even reach my knees. But even though I could stand up in the water, I still can't fall because that would be a bother for sure. And so, I cast a barrier on everyone just in case. Not that they're as worried as me, because they all cross the bridge like it's no big deal. And then, we safely finish the 6th floor. Finally, the 7th floor. Knowing there are laurel tree fruits ahead makes me want to keep going, but we need to calm down first. We can't get impatient. That said, I still want to check the 7th floor, and more importantly, cast appraisal on the Minotaurs. Would monsters attack if we suddenly stepped inside the 7th floor? That wasn't the case when I came here, but my seniors told me that does happen, even if it's rare. Well then maybe. No, let's not. Crossing over to another floor is always risky. But even if it's fine this time, it might not be next time. And if that's the case, going through that risk once is enough. Should we go back? I ask, and everyone nods, so we leave the dungeon. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Index. Walking in Another World, Chapter 268, Altair's Dungeon, Part 7. We leave the dungeon and decide to go back the next day to go to the 7th floor. But Dutina isn't coming. I don't feel good about taking her somewhere we know is dangerous in the first place, but apparently she doesn't know all that much about the 7th floor anyway. And so, we get what information we can about the 7th floor before we go, and only the 6 of us will be challenging it. Something else to consider is that if no one besides our party is watching, we can go up a gear in the way we fight. Chris in particular can use spirit magic and increase our overall fighting power. I haven't been wearing my mask here in Altair, but Chris is still using spirit magic all the time to disguise herself. I should probably be careful too, but I've been told that I shouldn't walk around the castle with a mask. And we're the only humans from the outside here anyway. Hold on, I'll go first and check it. I use a lot of magic energy, and cast a barrier on myself that should protect me against any sneak attacks, and then I can just retreat. I'm using parallel thinking too, so I'm good to go. I stop at the last step of the staircase, take a deep breath, and step forward. The scenery suddenly changes, showing a grassy field. There's good visibility here, and I don't see a single monster. Presence detection also shows me there are none nearby. But there are monsters in the forest a little far from here. I'm sure the minotaurs are deeper in that forest, near the laurel tree. If that's the case, what I know at this point is that tiger wolves and blood bears have been confirmed to be here, so there's a good chance that it's one or the other. Of course, it's not like they explored every little corner, so maybe there's more. I take out an item and throw it in the entrance, and shortly after, the others come down. So there aren't any monsters? Yes. There aren't any nearby as far as I can tell. But there are monsters in the forest. Rurika is looking around, checking for any signs of monsters. So, are we going straight to the laurel tree? If we head straight forward from here, we'll reach a gate that leads to the 8th floor. We've been told the laurel tree are on the right side. When we approach the forest and check the entrance, we see that the trees are really crowded together. I doubt big monsters could move well in here. Could it be that the trees being so densely packed together is stopping them from getting out? Depends on the monster. It wouldn't be weird for a blood bear to destroy the trees and leave. Strong monsters? But then they'd be relatively slow, so it would be easy to deal with them. But without good weapons, their thick fur would block attacks and make it hard to take them down. So that's not always true either. If they're weak to magic, and there's a sorcerer present, that makes it a lot easier. The only issue would be that since they live in a forest, they would have to be defeated with something other than fire magic. Let's just stay alert and keep going. I think the closer we get to the laurel tree, the less we have to worry about other monsters. Monsters tend to be very territorial, unless they are completely thoughtless. I can't imagine a lot of monsters going near the territory of a high-rank monster like a minotaur, only if they're wounded, hungry, or something else chases them there. We keep walking, and it really is hard to walk with how cramped it is in here. Humans are relatively small, so we can pass through, but there's so many roots on the ground. Even if I try to avoid them, I still feel like my feet will get caught in them or I'll step on a slippery root and fall. I need to be careful and use the trees to support my body, or I could really be in trouble if monsters attack in a place like this, says Mia as she struggles to move forward. We haven't been here that long, but she's sweating. Could she be feeling a little hot, even though the leaves cover the sun and block the sunlight, and it's a little chilly? I look at everyone else, and they all have sweat on their foreheads too. It's all right. There aren't any nearby. Mia breathes a sigh of relief, probably reassured by Sarah's words. I would be anxious anyway, if I couldn't use presence detection. There are a lot of places to hide, and visibility is bad in general. Being surrounded by trees like this gives me a feeling of pressure too. I hope we can find somewhere we can rest. I think we can only have things I have and the item box that are ready to eat. Not that that's a problem, because it stores the food the way it was when I finished cooking it. I check the positions of the monsters with map again, but if I just look at it normally, I don't see anything. I need to infuse it with some magic energy to enlarge it and see reactions from monsters. I see two. But if one is the group of Minotaurs, what's the other one? We'll cross paths with them if we keep walking like this. We could go around them. But from what I see on map, this reaction is moving around pretty restlessly. What's wrong? Asks Rurika, noticing that something's on my mind. We're going to find monsters if we keep advancing like this. But it feels like they're wandering around. How many are there? Two of the ones that are nearest. As for the Minotaurs, I just see them as a big mass. I'm so jealous of that ability. So too. Let's avoid fighting if we can. Both our footing and visibility are bad. Rurika is right. And we shouldn't tire ourselves needlessly before fighting the Minotaurs either. We don't know how many there are, so we should be as close to top form as possible when we fight them. That's what I think anyway. But the world isn't that kind. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 269, Altair's Dungeon, Part 8. We should be walking around them, but the monsters are coming this way. It doesn't look like it's going to go the way we hoped. A loud noise echoes throughout the forest, and it startles Mia. They're coming this way, aren't they? Asks Rurika while looking around. Do we have enough room to swing our swords? Even if I attack with magic, the trees are still in the way. If I use powerful magic, it should blow the trees away too, but that still might make it inefficient against the monsters. But the same goes for them, right? That's what I think at first, but then I see them breaking through the forest as they come towards us. Depending on the monsters, we might be stuck defending until we are really ready to fight. It looks like they're blood bears, says Sarah, and I feel relieved. I figured we would be fine. But if these turned out to be Minotaurs, that would be the worst. Should we keep going to the Minotaurs' territory while looking for an open space? I think we should fight them back. They look pretty fired up, and they might keep chasing us even if there are strong monsters nearby. It's true, the way they're destroying the forest doesn't seem normal. I don't know what happened, but it looks like we came here at the wrong time. Sora, Chris and I will create a little space. Can you buy us some time? Says Sarah. Are they going to take trees down? We haven't found a good spot so far, so that might be the right choice. All right. Hikari and Rurika, cover them. I'll act as bait. I'm the best for this job because even if a tree comes flying and I can't dodge it, I can block it with a barrier. And since Hikari and Rurika are agile, they can use throwing weapons to cover for the others. Can he kill them? If you can take them down, that's fine. Just don't chase them too far, and don't force yourselves to fight them if they aren't going where Sarah and Chris are headed. I can't help but smile awkwardly at what Hikari said. Even in this situation, she's still thinking about taking them down. Well, it's difficult to fight them here, but if she can take them down, good. Hikari and Rurika leave me. Hikari is climbing a tree. Her movements are so light. I check Sarah and Chris' position on map, and start moving too. The blood bears are moving towards Sarah and Chris, and then, like a magnet is pulling them back, they change direction. Is it because they feel my presence is the closest? Sarah and Chris are now standing still. Are they making a space for us? I need to buy time for them, and I need to make sure I don't get too far from the monsters, or they'll go after Sarah and Chris again. And so, I'm going to move slowly and in a way that leads them away from Sarah and Chris. That said, that might not be very effective, because they don't care about the trees in their way and always run the shortest possible distance to attack. I hear the sound of trees being broken, and see what looks like a cloud of dust. When I finally get a good look at the monsters, I'm surprised by what I see. There are two of them, but the one leading the way is bleeding a lot from the front. Did it get hurt in battle, or is that from breaking through the trees? I don't know what happened. But what I do know is that this thing isn't going to back down from a fight. They notice me, growl, and speed up. The monsters tackle the trees in their way and mow them down, not caring about anything blocking their charge. This might end up attracting more monsters, but there's nothing I can do about that. I retreat while firing magic at the ground, but that doesn't seem to have any effect. If I wasn't using parallel thinking, I'm sure I would have tripped on something by now. Then I hear a different, lower sound. It's a signal. I turn around and speed up, not turning around to look at the roars behind me. Eventually, I see an empty space with Sarah in the middle, and Chris and me a little further back. You actually managed to make this. It was mostly Chris. The trees are all tucked in a corner so they don't get in the way, but we still need to watch out for the stumps. Rurika and Hikari, Join us too. Yes, we'll strike from the back. There are 2 blood bears, and 2 of us standing here. We can each take one. Sarah goes on the right and I go on the left, each baiting a blood bear to attack us. I dodge a claw that swings down at me, and swing my mithril sword down. Even that tough fur shouldn't be able to stop a mithril sword infused with magic energy. The blood bear's arm is cut, and it shrieks, but it shows no sign of backing down. Doesn't it feel pain? Well, the way it shrieked tells me it does. Then why? It attacks me with the other arm, and I dodge it. But just as I'm about to counterattack, Hikari comes flying from the air. It really does look like she's flying, as she swings her dagger down and stabs the monster's neck from behind. The dagger infused with magic energy is incredibly sharp, and that combined with the momentum and the weight she put in it, means it instantly ends the blood bear's life. The blood bear on this side is taken down pretty abruptly, thanks to Hikari, but just as we're about to go help the others, they signal with their eyes and stop us. I guess Ruriko and Sarah want to take that one down themselves. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, the other blood bear is down. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 270, Altair's Dungeon, Part 9. We eat while the blood drains from the blood bears. At this point, I'm used to seeing blood drain from monsters. When you consider how only looking at it made me sick at first, it's really frightening how people get used to things. So what caused it in the first place? Why were they so riled up, you mean? Asks Chris, and I nod. I don't know what goes on in monsters' minds, so I guess it goes without saying that I don't know why they were like that either. Judging by how they were already bloodied up, I assumed they fought something before they found us and that got them all worked up, but they don't seem to have any external wounds. We should just rest for now, and then think about what to do about the Minotaurs. Sarah is right. We had to move as we fought the blood bears, and now I see multiple reactions in the outer circumference when I check map. Judging by their positions, I assume it's the Minotaurs. I think I could find out more if I advanced a little, but the problem is their numbers. How many are there? Do you think they can be taken down with magic? It might be difficult, because Minotaurs are resistant to it, and we have to consider where we will be fighting as well, because of the laurel trees. I agree with Chris. We have to avoid collateral damage. Then again, those are trees inside a dungeon, so how does that work? Do they grow just like trees outside? In Majolica's dungeon, they reset when the dungeon changes, but apparently this place is different. People farm and grow vegetables, so do they really grow naturally? If that's the case, should we report the terrible spectacle around us when we go back? By the way, we chopped the trees that were brought down into smaller pieces, and I stored them in the item box. Trees are valuable commodities, used for all sorts of things. Although with our party, it's probably going to be related to food. It would be great if we could gauge our enemy's power first. I wish we could ask that guy that fought a Minotaur in Majolica. Garbin, was it? Considering his strength, we should be able to fight them too. I don't think it's that simple. You're stronger than a Minotaur, Sarah, but you're not going to be fighting them one-on-one. We might end up fighting multiple Minotaurs. Rurika has a point, especially considering that parties that go to the lower floors tend to have a lot of party members. There's also the labyrinth nature of that dungeon. Basically, depending on the wideness of the passages, I think it's possible to avoid fighting many enemies at once there. We really should follow the original plan, where I check their levels first. I'll check their levels with appraisal. How about we talk again after that? I think that's our best option. And so, we get on it right away. Moving with a lot of people increases the risk of being spotted, so we advance a little more, and when we decide on a place to be our base, I go with only Hikari. I can't go alone, and Hikari is the most suited person to come with me because she's good at hiding her presence. We can see Minotaurs even from the outer edge of the forest, and since it's just the two of us, we can get relatively close. I climb a tree, and look down. I've never actually climbed a tree before, but with my stats and Hikari's guidance, I don't do so badly. Can you do it, Master? She asks, and I cast appraisal. Name dash, race, Minotaur, level, 83, condition, none. Name dash, race, Minotaur, level, 87, condition, none. Their levels are higher than Sarah's, and I guess they're not all the same. Hikari, let's go back there now. I think she understands, so she nods, and jumps to a tree next to this one. And then I jump down. Solid ground makes me feel a lot more safe. But it's not like I'm afraid of heights, or anything like that. Hikari then jumps down too. So? Asks Ruriko after we go back. They're stronger than even Sarah. Mia's face is turning pale. Having high levels doesn't necessarily mean they're strong. I say to try to reassure her, but it's no good. Of course, people can be stronger or weaker depending on their experience. But she knows that monsters know how to fight from the moment they're born. That means that even freshly born monsters can fight like any other, and experience just makes them even stronger. Basically, monsters are strong. Of course, there are weak monsters too, like goblins and slime. But what about minotaurs? Apparently they're strong. Their overall physical abilities are good, but more importantly, the problem is their high stamina. Magic doesn't work too well on them, and while I'm pretty sure my mithril weapon will work, I still have to be careful. The biggest problem is that we have confirmed 9 minotaurs. To be honest, I can't imagine it will be easy to fight them with those levels and those numbers. The ideal scenario would be to crush them one at a time. Yes, Sarah. If we can't finish them all at once, we have to take our time and lead them on to take them down one at a time. Let's plan how we're going to fight them, I say, and we all put our heads together and throw out suggestions. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 271, Altair's Dungeon, Part 10. Are you really gonna do it, Master? Watching Hikari pull on my sleeve and look up at me hurts my heart, but I've made my decision. Minotaurs are strong. We can't make progress and defeat them without some sacrifice. And as a result, 3 out of 9 are down. It's been going well so far, but it looks like the other Minotaurs have realized that some of their friends were taken out, and are now more alert. Do we need to come up with something else? I tried making steak today, using Minotaur, of course. Their skin is tough when I hit it with my sword, but the meat is soft and tasty. As Hikari stuffs her cheeks with it, her mood starts to improve, and it brings a smile to my face. I did make this to try to make her feel better, so that's nice. What are we going to do next? Judging by how you felt fighting them so far, how many do you think you can take on at the same time? 2 if I focus on defense. What about you, Sora? I could probably hunt too if I used my skills generously. The feeling that I got after fighting them was that they're not as strong as Gonza. If I didn't go through that battle, I probably wouldn't be able to fight the Minotaurs like this. Sarah seems surprised by my answer, but I guess she remembers that I have all sorts of skills, and doesn't really say anything. But what now? We reduced their numbers by luring them with blood bear meat. They're monsters, but they still need to eat. I wondered if that was different for dungeon monsters, but I have seen the meat, and so, we did some sabotage to try to starve and bait them. Hikari was really sad because she was looking forward to eating blood bear, but she just had to bear with it. That means we managed to reduce their numbers, but they started to catch on to our tactics, and it stopped working. We would eventually wipe them out if we took our time, but I don't want this to take too long. There's a chance that my objective will fail even if I get the laurel tree fruit, and I'm worried that more Minotaurs might show up. Who knows what might happen in a dungeon? Everyone seems worried, because they know that too. Even if Sarah and I take on 4 of them, that leaves 2. If the others have to take on 2 of them, there's a chance that they'll be overwhelmed. Sora, how many mana potions do you have left? I picked a lot of medicinal herbs before, so my stock is looking pretty good. Then I want to try something. You don't want to spend too long here, right? I nod to Chris. We need to consider the time it will take us to get back to, and the time it will take to make the petrification cure. Are you sure? I'm surprised to hear Chris' proposal, and Ruriko looks unsure too. I tried it before, so it should be fine. It's just that it spends a lot of magic energy, and that is where the mana potions come in. She's talking about summoning more than one spirit, and using 2 types of spirit magic at the same time. That must put a lot of strain on her. Was Ruriko with her when she did that before? Chris then starts talking to Ruriko with a smile on her face. Is she trying to reassure her? First we check to see if we can lure them with bait, but they've learned, and are not biting anymore. Then we have to follow Chris' plan. We get into formation and show ourselves, but the Minotaurs still don't move. Before we took down those 3, they went along with our strategy so well that it was funny, but now they're not leaving the laurel tree. We need to get them away from the first, even if just a bit, because Chris' magic is strong and it might affect the tree too. Anyway, Hikari and I go ahead and strike first. Sarah and Ruriko are protecting the other 2 just in case the monsters go on the offensive, but they're just watching our movements, and slowly start to move. Hikari, govern me. Hikari takes some distance, and throws a knife. This first one is just a regular knife. It can't break the Minotaur's skin, but it does attract attention. I use the opening that attack gives me to get close and swing my sword. Attacking alone means they immediately start to move to surround me, so I need to move away quickly. And as I do, Hikari comes over to support. Just a bit more, and we can get the Minotaurs to move away. Sometimes they manage to hit me with their clubs, but I suffer almost no damage because of the protection spell that Mia is continuously chanting. Pain reduction also means I feel almost nothing, and my movements aren't hindered. But Mia has warned me about this too, because not feeling pain doesn't mean I'm not suffering damage. That's why I check my stats once in a while to see my HP, and so, we manage to slowly draw them away, and Rurika and the others get behind them. Chris then calls the spirits, and I feel the flow of thick magic energy on my skin. The Minotaurs notice it too, and they all turn around. I think they're sensing danger on an instinctual level. Some try to run, but they're attacked from the back. I swing my mithril sword infused with magic energy, and one falls to the ground while screaming. One turns to me after hearing the scream, but a knife is thrown towards it by Hikari. The Minotaur brushes it away without much concern, but this one carries magic energy and has an explosive effect attached to it. Once it hits, it explodes with a loud boom. This time, all the Minotaurs turn around, and the spirit magic activated by Chris is released towards them. The green and blue magic each hits a Minotaur directly. One has its upper body blown away, and another has a hole blown into its body. Half of them are down. Sarah takes off running this way, and I approach the shaken Minotaurs and attack. I use Time Shift, a space-time magic spell, and quickly take it down. Then I take on another one while Sarah and Hikari work together and take down the other. And then, the final one is also safely brought down. But at the same time, I hear Rurika scream. I turn to look, and see Mia is holding Chris, who collapsed. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 272. Laurel Tree Fruit. It looks like Chris' condition was caused by a steep and sudden loss of magic energy. Apparently even she didn't expect to lose so much, because even though she had a mana potion at the ready, her mind got muddy right after she fired the magic and she couldn't drink it. And it looks like she fell awkwardly and hurt herself too. But Mia is already healing her. "I'm sorry," is the first thing Chris says after waking up. Why? Because the way she utterly destroyed those two Minotaurs ruined their magic stones. I don't really care. In fact, we managed to finish the Minotaurs pretty much without any damage on our end because she took them out so quickly. When I tell her that, she closes her eyes and falls asleep, seemingly feeling relieved. Her magic energy should recover by drinking a mana potion, but it looks like the whole thing put a bigger strain on her than any of us expected. Let's just let her rest for now. We have things to do in the meantime too. "So this is the laurel tree," says Rurika as she looks up at what looks like a normal tree. The fruit, on the other hand, has the shape of a crescent moon. "Which ones are ripe? Will appraisal tell me?" I try using it, but it's repelled. "Eh?" I yell without thinking. Everyone turns my way, and I'm not sure how I should respond. I can cast appraisal on the tree itself, but not the fruit. "What's wrong?" asks Sarah, and I answer honestly. "Everything has the same crescent moon shape, so is it all the same?" But as I'm wondering that, I get a response from an unlikely source. "Laurel tree fruit that are ripe with a lot of magic energy are the ones used as ingredients for medicine." Why do you know that? Princess Yuan told me last night. I use magic energy detection on each individual fruit, and I can tell the difference. But how do other people do it? Thankfully, I can use a skill, but are there actually special magic items? And each person can take 10. I'm confused, so I ask why, and she tells me it's because people can carry out 10 at a time. I immediately picture a special sale in a supermarket, and apparently this rule was put in place to prevent excessive harvesting. If someone does take more than 10, the tree withers when they leave the dungeon and no one can get laurel tree fruit for a while. Is that really true? Well, in any case, I'm not testing it. If it does turn out to be true, I'm going to be held responsible. What would happen if I used the item box? No, there's no point in even thinking about that. So each of us should take 10? Yes. Princess Ueni also asked to do that if possible. Then I guess we have to climb the tree to get them. Even the ones closest to the ground are 3 meters away. That sounds like a lot of trouble if I have to do it alone, but then I remember something. The magic energy seeing glasses. They should be able to see it too with them. We test them out, and they work perfectly. Can you do it, Hikari? I hand her the glasses and an item bag. We'll both pick enough for everyone. It should be fine if we're all carrying 10 when we leave. But how do other people pick them? Do they climb the tree too? Rurika and Sarah are watching over our surroundings. Will more minotaurs come? Will other monsters come closer because they sense the minotaurs are dead? I feel like anything could happen in this dungeon. Hikari doesn't have trouble picking the fruit, and I look for fruit with the same magic energy that I saw when I put on the glasses. The ones that have a lot of magic energy feel like they have a glow surrounding them. In the end, Hikari quickly gathers twice as much as me. Yep, she really is a ninja. My physical abilities have improved, but I'm still not too confident moving around on branches. Laurel tree branches are about 50 centimeters thick, but this combined with the height makes me nervous. It's amazing how Hikari can move around normally on unsteady footing like that. Master, I'm done. And thus ends our harvest. Should we keep moving while we wait for Chris to wake up? It took us longer than I expected to harvest the fruit, and the sky is turning dark. I don't sense any more monsters, but Rurika looks worried about Chris. I'm sure she wants to let her rest if possible. And then, the light disappears completely, and day turns to night. As our surroundings are draped in darkness, something strange happens. Light gathers in the roots of the laurel tree, and it seems to be sucked into the trunk, and then spread to the branches and leaves. Eventually the whole tree is covered in light, and around where fruit was before, flowers bloom and new fruit appears. The laurel tree keeps glowing, shining a gentle light in this darkness. I feel holy energy from this light, whispers Mia, sounding surprised. Holy energy? What do you mean? HN? Are the monsters running away? Says Hikari, and I pump magic energy into map to expand it. I can see reactions from monsters on the edge, and eventually they disappear. I look up at the glowing laurel tree, and think about what Mia said. There's one thing I don't get. I came near the laurel tree twice when I was scouting, but there was no light. The only difference between now and then is that the minotaurs are gone, and is it because we picked fruit? Could it be that? But for now, looking at this wonderful sight without a care as it's burned into my memory, isn't bad at all. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Index. Walking in Another World, Chapter 273, Petrification Cure. HN. So that's, you could have woken me up, says Chris with a rare pout, after hearing about what happened last night. We did try. But then, Rurika starts whispering in her ear, and Chris goes silent as her face turns red. Are we going back now? I want to make the cure here. If it goes badly and I fail, I can get more laurel tree fruit. How does that work though? Would that count? I think it'll be fine as long as we don't leave this floor. In fact, both Hikari and I are carrying more than 10 fruits. And I think Ueni would have told us if we couldn't pick more than 10 fruits each. Anyway, I ask everyone to keep watch, and start putting together all the things I thought about last night. All I have of the cockatrice at this point is the magic stone. If the laurel tree fruit is necessary, should I just use it along with a full potion, or should I throw in the magic stone? Using the magic stone should increase its effect, so maybe I should use it just to be sure. I want to avoid a scenario where I spend a lot of magic energy because I don't have enough ingredients. That might make it fail too. I could have done this last night, but there was a lot on my mind, like Chris still being down. Maybe that's just an excuse. I prepare the ingredients, and focus. I need more than just magic energy. I need to calm down. I keep thinking about when I used the creation skill in the dungeon and collapsed, but that was a special environment. And this time I have MP consumption reduction too. How many fruits should I use? They're not that big, but I don't think I need to start dumping a lot of them. Not to mention that if I start using them like that, I'm going to run out. I should be able to at least check the alchemy recipe. I see. When you make medicine from laurel tree fruit, you can make several with one fruit. But apparently that lowers the effect too. It should result in potions of lower quality. It's time, so I activate the creation skill. I don't know if it's because I have a clear image on my mind or because I'm getting used to it, but it's the first time that I activate the skill and get a feel for when I should infuse magic energy. I mix in the potion and the liquefied fruit, add in the magic stone, and after infusing magic energy, it's done. I check my status panel, and confirm that I did lose a lot of MP. It's always like this the first time I make something, but thanks to MP consumption reduction, I still have more than half. Master, is it done? Yes, I think this will work. Sora's petrification cure. Effect: heals petrification. Quality: good. After casting appraisal, I see that the incomplete tag is gone. Let's just ignore the item's name. I'm pretty sure the liquefied laurel tree fruit won't degrade in the item box, but I might as well use it all. And so, I end up with 6 cures. Then we eat, and get moving again. Where are we going? Asks Sarah, and I tilt my head. Are you asking if we're going back the way we came, or to the 8th floor? That makes sense. From here, the 8th floor is closer than the entrance to this floor. Not to mention that it'll be easier to walk as the forest opens up. Should we keep going and return through the 8th floor? We don't need to keep exploring this dungeon, but it might not be bad to move forward anyway, and if it gets us back quicker, all the better. But I also see that there aren't any monsters up ahead. Master, when's the next time we are going to have Minotaur steak? Hikari sounds very interested. I do get the feeling that strong monsters taste better. Some are poisonous, but that shouldn't be a problem with appraisal. Incidentally, apparently strong monsters are still tasty even if they are poisonous. How do I know this? Apparently there are gluttons in every era, and I've heard it from people who read the records. That means that if you could remove the poison, you'd be left with just tasty ingredients. But the actual method is a mystery. I should be fine anyway thanks to status ailment resistance, but I don't know. I could do other things with the meat stew then. We walk while having this peaceful conversation. Of course, we don't let our guard down, but no monsters attack. I can tell with a map that there aren't any nearby in the first place. We eventually reach the place where the staircase to the 8th floor is, but we see something unexpected. I start wondering why there's a gate here, but I see there's a path in front of it. If we follow this path in the opposite direction, it will lead us to the staircase that leads to the 6th floor. A gate? Asks Rurika. I know, right? It's built into a wall, and there's a design on it, but its color is different from the color of the walls. Isn't the staircase here? It should be. I say to Rurika. We are being guided by map, so we should be in the right place. Something else about this gate is that there are no joins. No matter where I look at it from, it just looks like a big flat board. It doesn't budge. Sarah tries pushing it, to no avail. If it's just a wall, does that mean that this is a dead end? Is there no 8th floor to begin with? There's nothing we can grab on to pull it either. Rurika also tries to move it, but the result is the same. Should we go back then? I ask, but my voice is drowned out by a low rumbling sound. I turn to look, and see the wall slowly cracking open. And in front of it, is a perplexed Mia. What did you do? I touched it, and suddenly, it looks like no one's more surprised than her. Should we advance? Beyond the wall, there's a staircase. I don't see anything suspicious about it, and as we go down, we eventually see the pillar where we can register. We register there, and go back like we planned. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 274, Audience, Part 1. You defeated the Minotaurs. Yuini is surprised when we come back and report to her. I hand her the laurel tree fruits to prove it, and she says you really did it before going quiet. But she quickly fixes her posture and bows. I thank you on behalf of the people of Altair for taking down the Minotaurs. Well, we needed to do it for our own sake too. But we need some laurel tree fruits, so will you sell them to us? I spoke about this with Mia before, but those are yours. There are 59 laurel tree fruits in front of us. Is this all for us? Didn't they say they had problems because their supply stopped? I guess with the Minotaurs gone, the royal guards can go get them themselves, but still. Then how about buying our portions? You might not be able to collect them so soon, and we have no use for them, says Chris, and Rurika and Sarah nod. I guess Hikari and Mia's portions belong to me, because they're slaves. Then how about I keep 10 just in case, and you buy the rest? That would be great. Apparently she's paying above the market price, because Rurika, Chris, and Sarah freeze when they take the money. What is the matter? So many gold coins. I feel like my money sense is going nuts. Rurika looks nervous as she holds the bag with the money. Didn't she make quite a bit of money in the dungeon too? I think she's exaggerating, but it really is a lot of money. Back when I first became an adventurer, I accepted a lot of delivery quests to pay for my room in the inn. I think it was around the time when I started selling potions that my money sense became weird. Well, not that it really matters. Even if I start thinking things like I'm gonna use this to get my dream home, I technically already have one in Majolica. Uini, is it possible to buy a social position? I don't know. I can't say I know a lot about it, but I could ask a civil official. No, if you don't know, it's fine. And it sounds like it might take a while. Do you know when a boat will leave for Marti? I will ask my father. He knows about your situation to a certain extent. But the last boat left just a few days ago, so you might have to wait a while. Uini sounds apologetic, but I understand that they need to prepare to set sail. I've also heard from sailors that visited the inn's dining hall that the crew also works other jobs when the ship is anchored. Since you will be staying here, how about telling me about how you defeated the Minotaurs when it is time to eat? We do so, but we have to be vague about Chris' contribution. Still, Cirque is incredibly entranced while we tell the story. We're told the ship will be leaving in 3 days, and the next day, we're taken to the audience chamber. In this big room on the highest floor, there is a dragon enshrined right in front of us. When Mia sees it, she immediately grabs my sleeve. I'm surprised too, to be honest. When the door opened I just saw what looked like a black mountain, and it turns out it's a dragon. Father, stop kidding around, says Uini, and the dragon starts shrinking and eventually takes human form. Phew. I wanted to see the reaction of the party I have been hearing about. I've seen this person before, it was when we were training with the royal guards. Well then, I would like to speak leisurely, so will you kindly leave, he says, which leads to some troubled expressions around us. I assume he wants to talk without so many people around, but I wonder. We did defeat those Minotaurs, and we have a connection to royalty through Uini. But it feels like we're still seen as strangers by people around us. I guess it's natural for them to be concerned. Are you implying they would get the better of me? Asks the king, and the vassals look even more troubled. Father, please don't trouble them so much. Alfred, please stay, says Uini, and the vassals reluctantly leave. Some of them look pretty tired too. I can imagine them being troubled on a daily basis. Or maybe it has to do with the whole situation with the Minotaurs. Thank you for defeating the Minotaurs. Very well done. I am Altsahak, the king of the Dragon Kingdom. What are your plans going forward? At first I don't really understand what he means, but then I respond with what we have to do. We are going to deliver medicine to an acquaintance. That is the reason why we came to this country. I see. And once you are done with that, you will continue looking for the missing elf. 3 people gulp with surprise after they hear this. I'm surprised too, but at the same time I think it makes sense that this information reached his ears. But why is he asking? I'm more curious, and also wary of that. I hear you have been telling Uini and the others about your travels, and it seems they have been enjoying it very much. Shana sounded very excited when she spoke about it, and as I heard about it, I thought of something. There is a place you have yet to visit. What place? Rurika is the one who reacts the fastest. I look at her face in profile, and feel something like strong impatience. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 275, Audience, Part 2. No need to be so hasty, young lady. Rurika calms down, bows, and moves back. But it is a dangerous place, and there is no guarantee that you will be there. But if there is a chance, please tell us. It is a place that is not really seen as a country. It is located in the depths of the Dark Forest. Dark Forest? Altsahak's words remind me of the Demon King. The Demon King and demons. If people live there, maybe it's not all that surprising that there is a town. But it doesn't seem possible that other races live there. Ignis didn't seem to care about humans one way or the other, but Adu, the demon in the Holy Kingdom, seemed to not see humans as people at all. Is there really a town where people of other races live next to people like them? You might think it is odd, but there is a place where people who ran away from the world, or were persecuted, gather. In any world, there are people who are different, and those willing to accept them. Elves don't really seem to be persecuted, but there are people who go after them. Is it possible, then? But how do you know this? That's probably the #1 question right now, so I ask how he came to know this. It was hundreds of years ago, but I have visited it once. He seems nostalgic when he says this, but also sad. There were humans, beast people, elves, dragon people, demons, all joined together. It was not a rich land, but it was a town more peaceful than any country I have seen. How do we get there? Chris is getting interested too, as she leans forward a little. It will be dangerous. Do you want to go? If there is a chance that we will find her there. Yes, there is a town north of the border between the Republic of Eldo and the Empire. If you walk off the main road and advance straight north, you will reach the Dark Forest. And then, if you carry a magic item to guide you, you should reach it. Does that mean he can't get there without said magic item? You can look for it even without the magic item. But as a reward for your efforts, I will let you have it. Are you sure? I have no need for it. If I do want to go there, I just have to fly. Thank you, Chris says as she bows deeply. And suddenly, Altsahak turns back into his dragon form. I hear a grinding noise, like he's clenching his teeth, and then, a fang falls from his mouth. And then, Altsahak turns back into his humanoid form, picks it up, and hands it to us. The dragon god Fang is said to kill even a god. This world's. No, it should also be of help to you in your travels. Make good use of it. Uini and Alfred are also very surprised by this. I'm also at a loss. Could I use it to make a weapon? Judging by its size, I think I could only make a short sword or the tip of a spear. If it's said to be able to kill even a god, it must mean it is tremendous offensive power. It could be pretty useful when fighting stronger monsters. I will put it to good use. You will receive the magic item later from Uini, and since the ship will only be leaving in a few days, I would be happy if you played with the children, is the last thing he says before leaving the audience chamber with Alfred. I feel like we should be the ones to leave, but I'm sorry about the commotion. I will also prepare a room, and I still have some work to do. So will you look after Cirque and Sehana? Afterwards, Cirque says he wants to train with the sword, and Sehana wants to learn about cooking, so we split into two groups. Basically, Vanguard and Magic. And me? I'm on the cooking team, of course. Some members of the Royal Guard will be joining their training, so I doubt it will be very intense. As for cooking, some cooks who work in the castle will be joining us, and I'll mostly be teaching them my cooking, or rather, my old world cooking. Uini in particular is very excited, which makes the cooks fired up too. Sehana being a princess means she's never really had the opportunity to cook, and she has a tough time. She reminds me of Mia back when she started. I guess it makes sense then that Mia is attentively teaching her. The cooks all seem anxious, but I think we can leave this to Mia. Eventually, we all make dinner together, and Uini looks pretty impressed by it. When it's time to eat, the whole older sister around her disappears, and she feels more like Hikari when she's eating. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 276, Audience, Part 3. But why, Father? If we continue to not pick laurel tree fruit, I think it will lead to confusion and disorder. I know, but minotaurs are troublesome monsters. Are they too much for the Royal Guard? They would probably not leave unscathed. Then what will you do? I mean, the dungeon already is. We will wait a little longer. Father, what did that person tell you? You have been acting strangely since that meeting. All of a sudden, you ordered the hunt to stop. I ordered the hunt to stop after gauging the Royal Guard's strength. And I want to wait and see a little longer. In regards to the laurel tree, I feel like we have been relying on it too much recently, and it is having an effect on the quality of the fruit. Very well. I think there are factors only you know about, so I won't say any more. Just don't carry everything on your shoulders. I know I can't be as reliable as Mother, but I am still your daughter. Yes, I will ask you when the time comes. Maybe things will get a little turbulent. Look after Cirque and Sehana. I know you are busy, but isn't that your job? Those two get lonely. I know. You really? No, nothing. I will see them right now. Is it true? Did you ask them to defeat the Minotaurs? Yes. They want laurel tree fruit after all. They should be able to pick it themselves. But someone from the Royal Guard should. Please, at least let Alfred accompany them. That cannot be. Alfred needs to guard this place. These are uncertain times, and we need to be ready in case something happens. Are you saying chaos is likely to spread into this country? This place should be fine, but I am not so sure about the neighboring town, and we do have precedents of foreign spies attempting to infiltrate. I understand. But can I have you check with your own eyes, and only then decide if it really is all right? It is rare to see you so invested. Cirque and Sehana are also fond of them. Cirque in particular is interested in a girl. Interesting. Very well. I will see for myself. and save my decision until then. If I don't see the necessary power in them, I will put a stop to it. Does that mean you will go ahead and send them there if they are strong to a certain extent? Of course. To gain something, you must risk losing something, and generally speaking, should I stop them because it is dangerous? Are you sure about this, Father? Yes, it will grow back. No, that is not what I'm joking. They might come to need it, and I doubt they will misuse it. Just how far can you see? Nothing. Despite being called Dragon King, mine is a small existence. Someone like me could never. Don't torment yourself so much. It was not your fault. No, it was. It was my doing that took your mother from you. That is not true. I'm sure Yes, I am sure she would say that. But that is why I decided to remain a spectator. There will be no more sacrifices from this country. But yes, I won't deny that I am getting a little involved this time. It was a request from a friend, but it should also help them. Can you tell me more about it? I don't think that would do any good. Any more interference might lead them to find out about it. Still, you are voicing your opinion a lot for a change. Are you interested in someone in particular? Well, fine. In any case, fate can no longer be changed. What does that mean? The door to the 8th floor has been opened. Did you not hear? Yes, and I'm sure you have heard about it. Is that why you gave them a fang? Yes. I pray nothing bad befalls them. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead. Walking in Another World, Chapter 277, Goodbye and Reunion. Hikari, I'll definitely be stronger than you the next time I see you. Come back sometime, HN, and I'll beat you back. But I don't know if I'll be back. Yes, that really is undecided. Cirque is hit with reality and reacts with shock like he was struck with a hard blow. That's just how Hikari is, straightforward for better or worse. You're welcome to come again too, Sora. Yuini was really happy with your cooking. Seihana, you're making me sound like a glutton. That's probably the first time I've seen her looking mad. She's grinding Seihana's head with her fists, and Seihana is crouching while holding her head. You're going to have to be a little more mature. Well then everyone, please stay safe, and if you find Eris, please send us a letter. Why yes, we will report back to you. Chris squeezes Yuini's hand and nods. We were completely out of clues and had nowhere to turn to. But we see a light of hope again. The dark forest, the area monsters call home. I imagine it will be dangerous, but I can't see that stopping them. We were thinking about going back to the kingdom of Eluzia too, but our destination's been set. Mia looks pale. I'm sure she'll go where I go, but it looks like she's still scared of demons. But there's also the fact that being with Sarah, Chris, and Rurika has made her sympathetic to how they feel. She probably feels conflicted about going there. After saying goodbye, we board the ship. We wave back to the people waving at us, and after a quiet ride, we reach Marty. But wait, before getting off the ship, I should probably put on my mask. We try not to disturb their work as we get off the ship, and head straight to the northern gate. It's afternoon, but if we keep going like this, we should reach the foot of the mountain before the end of the day. We've discussed before that we'll spend the night there, and start climbing the mountain tomorrow morning. But along the way, I hear an unexpected voice calling me. Sora. Hold on. I turn around and see someone struggling to run as fast as possible. It's Yan, the guild master of the Alchemist Guild in Marty. Are you alright? I mean, we're in a hurry, so. Why yes. I heard all about it. No. Wait. We received a message from Buzzin. Come back to the inn where you were staying, quick. I'm not sure about this, but after seeing how frantic he looks, I oblige. Once we get near the inn, Hikari grabs my sleeve, and when we go inside, we see people that I really didn't expect to see here. It's Fred, an adventurer we said goodbye to in Majolica, along with Party Goblin's Grief. Oh, Sora. Thank goodness, you got the message, yells Fred when he sees me. And everyone else is surprised too. I'm the one who's surprised. I didn't expect to see so many people in the inn. What message? And weren't you going to Prix? Yes. Wait, you didn't get the message? We'll talk about it more later, but for now, come to the second floor. Miss Layla and her party are there. Layla and her party? I don't really understand what's going on, but let's go. But a message? Did something happen? Fred knocks on the door, and Lului opens it. As soon as she sees me, she takes my hand and pulls me inside. That's rare for her. What I see when I enter the room is Casey sleeping on a bed and Layla next to her, looking at her with a worried expression. Big sister. Sora is here. Layla raises her head and looks this way. There are bags under her eyes, and her cheeks look kind of puffy. It feels like she lost the strength she had in her eyes when I met her. Sora, Casey is. I cast appraisal on Casey. Her condition hasn't changed, but she looks smaller than before, probably because she's lost weight. Her face looks thin too, and not healthy. She gets weaker every day, and I don't know what to do anymore. I heard you couldn't get the material you needed, so I reported everything to Buzzin, and I guess it reached Layla's ears too. I understand. Is she sleeping? Yes, but up until just now. All right. She looks stable, so we should probably not wake her up. You should rest too. I don't think Casey can rest well either when you're looking after her in that state. It sounds a little cold, but at this rate, Layla might end up worse than Casey. I guess it was hard for you and the others to force her away. Hikari then steps in and takes Layla by the hand to another bed. Not long after Layla lies down, I hear her sleeping. Our big sister's barely been sleeping. Thanks. The rest of you should take turns resting too. You're not as bad as Layla, but you look tired too. They all look at each other, and silently nod. Sarah and Mia, can you look after Casey, and tell me when she wakes up? I can't imagine they'll be able to rest well with me in the room. My party members are used to it, but that's different. Join my Patreon to support me and read ahead.